It's a good point. It's a good point on some of it. You know, I mean, I don't agree with all, but
You don't have to agree.
Right, exactly. You don't have, but I'm saying, I do agree with you. There's some things I do agree with. So I appreciate that. And I didn't know
You guys coordinated your outfits today. I know
I read the newspaper.
it's a uniform.
Well, I only wanted to do the call. That was my only interest. It just became so difficult. Decided to maybe it was.
We matched the sky, and you guys were
Who knows?
so
Yeah. Well, if you sit on this side, you're
We're
on
like, we're very
I made the
We're
mistake.
very skies.
It's good to see you.
You're almost wearing blue today.
All wisdom's coming. Good.
Depends where I leave.
Woo!
Yay!
Yeah.
Let's call this meeting to order. Welcome everyone to the February 26th regular city council meeting. We are going to open the meeting and start with a roll call, please.
Mayor Nielsen,
I'm here.
Councilmember Giles,
Here.
Councilmember Machezik,
Here.
Councilmember Nelson,
Here.
Councilmember Thrower.
Here.
Okay, stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I did have one question on our regular agenda to see if we would be able to swap the order of the bond election discussion in front of the bid recommendation. Are we okay with changing that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda for tonight's city council meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and anything to discuss on the consent agenda? Anything you wanna pull off of there?
Not for me.
Nope.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Giles,
Yes.
Mayor Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezik,
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower.
Yes.
All right. All of our agenda stuff is done. Next is general public comment. It doesn't look like anyone signed up for the general public comment.
No.
Making sure no one wants to speak generally here. We're all here for the public hearing. So, seeing no general public comment here tonight, we'll call Meredith up to introduce our public hearing.
It's funny being in the middle now.
Yeah.
I get to look at all of you. Just anyway, Meredith Todd, City Planner and Sustainability Planner. For the
Can we
record.
have the mayor open the
We
public
need to
hearing?
open the
Yes.
public hearing, thank
Yes.
you. Can we?
I move we open the public hearing for CUP 2502.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, still Meredith Todd, City Planner and Sustainability Planner. This is a conditional use permit application that was recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The application is for a physical expansion of the Payette Lakes Middle School, rather than both a physical and capacity expansion. So if this application looks familiar, you did see it back in 22-23. calendar years. You did review it for both physical and capacity expansion at that time. However, since that time, the school has pared back the application based on enrollment assumptions to retain the existing enrollment on the school campus, but modify the middle school building to allow for more flexible use of space inside, as well as do some exterior modifications to the property. But they do not plan to increase enrollment capacity on the property. There will be some grading and landscaping of the playground areas between the south and east wings of the middle school. And then modifications beyond the playground and green space areas include some related to on-site vehicular circulation. The goal for them on the vehicular circulation plan is to address existing issues with the traffic on site related to the current capacity on campus, but not any further address of the off-site traffic situation because there is no increase from the existing campus capacity. Within your application packet and history, we did review the long and complex history of East McCall as we did during the 2022-2023 time period, in acknowledgement that development is not simple, development is not easy, and it does carry a long history. However, it's for you, the council, to decide what information in there is relevant to this application and the criteria for a conditional use permit, design review, or scenic route approval. The last time that we were here, there was a lot of discussion relating to increasing campus capacity of what type of off-site transportation system improvements would be warranted, because those numbers of increased students are not included in this application. There's not any off-site traffic mitigations, or they're minimal and related more to on-site fluidity if they're included in here. So one of the proposals at that time was split between allowing the applicants to do an engineering study that would resolve any issues with circulation or dedicate a secondary half of an easement to extend East Steinhardt Lane. That was a you pick one option back in the last time we reviewed this application. Since they've done those engineering studies, changed the assumptions of the application, we've still included a condition that they're welcome to go about the process of exploring an East Steinhardt extension, but mostly they just need to commit to finishing the on-site vehicular condition and circulation improvements that are mentioned within their own traffic study. There is no dedication of easement being called for as a condition of approval recommended in this iteration of the application. However, the acknowledgement that circulation on that side of town is not what it should be still remains within the record. Staff acknowledges that we're not in the ideal situation, but the tools that we have at our disposal when we review land use applications are essentially what impact is this specific application creating to a larger, broader system, and in this case, that impact has been pared down to only their existing impact already. So in here, you also have each of the conditional use permit standards that we will eventually need to review. All 12 of those criteria have to be satisfied in order to be granted a conditional use permit. So in order for this building to be physically expanded, all 12 of those have to be good. You have to have a good outcome on each of them. The Planning and Zoning Commission found that each of those would be in a compliant position with this application and the conditions of approval that have been recommended. So we can walk through each of those probably at a much later time to review compliance in the council's mind, or whether you require additional information based on public testimony received today in order to understand or find satisfaction with those criteria. From a design standpoint, it's all a good representation of civic design in McCall, with sturdy materials, extending the character of the existing building. So design review and scenic route review, especially with the updated landscaping plan, are not really an additional concern at this time. So before the council is really those 12 conditional use criteria of approval. But if there are any design questions, you do have the architect for the project in the room, Travis Burrows. And then in general, dimensional standards are well within the allowable maximum for the civic zone. There's quite a bit of green space. We're still going to be playing football over there. All of the great things that happen on the combined campus. And then with that, I can stand for any questions. There's obviously a lot of people in the room that want to speak tonight, so your next steps are to hear from the applicant, then probably ask any questions, clarifying materials of staff, and then go into the public comment section. So, I can
Mr.
stand for
Mayor,
any
can I
questions.
raise a procedural issue very quickly? Yeah, sir. Bill Punkany, City Attorney. Councilmember Nelson had approached me prior to the meeting asking whether he had a conflict of interest. And I think before we move forward, we should resolve that to the extent that we can tonight. And so, Councilmember Nelson, would you please express to me and to the City Council your concern, and then we'll make a determination about whether and how we would move forward with you.
Okay, thank you. I live in the Woodlands, and so this application has some impact perhaps on the transportation that would be forthcoming in the Woodlands. And so I think that from my point of view, I don't feel prejudiced or predisposed particularly. However, I think it could be asserted that because of where my house is located, and just get, I think, straight out to say, you know, the future development around there, which is Pine Creek Ranch, and which would be now be called Woodlands 3, could have, somebody could perceive that as having a negative effect on my house and where the house is located. So I just want to bring that up that we get clarity that later on we have asserted I do or do not have a conflict of interest.
Yeah, and just so that we're all clear, that according to Idaho Code 74403, a conflict of interest means any official action or any decision or recommendation by a person acting in a capacity as a public official, the effect of which would be to the private pecuniary benefit of the person or a member of the person's household, or a business with which the person or a member of the person's household is associated, unless the pecuniary benefit arises out of the following, and then there's a series of exceptions that don't apply here. And Idaho Code 74404 says a public official shall not take any official action or make a formal decision or formal recommendation concerning any matter where he has a conflict of interest and has failed to disclose such conflict as provided in this section. Disclosure of a conflict of interest does not affect an elected public official's authority to be counted for purposes of determining a quorum and to debate and to vote on the matter unless the public official requests to be excused from the debate and voting at his or her discretion. In order to determine whether a conflict of interest exists relative to any matter within the scope of the official functions of a public official, a public official may seek legal advice from the attorney representing the governmental entity or from the attorney general or from independent counsel. If the legal advice is that no real or potential conflict of interest exists, the public official may proceed and shall not be subject to the prohibitions of this chapter. Under the circumstances and my understanding of the nature of this application, it doesn't involve any land that is directly adjacent to your home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And do you believe that any action you take tonight would be to the private pecuniary benefit of you or a member of your household?
No, it won't be.
Okay. So under the circumstances, and obviously this is a public hearing, and so we're going to receive additional facts, and so things may come to light that change this, but for now, it's my opinion that you do not have a conflict of interest and that you can participate at least in the public hearing, asking your questions, and then we'll reevaluate prior to final determination on this application. Mr. Mayor and Council, do you have any objections to the way that I've proposed that we proceed?
No.
No.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, thank you, that's all for me. Oh, sorry, Mike.
So
Yeah, I have no objections.
with that, I can turn it over, or if you
I'd like
have,
to hear from the applicant.
yeah.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, Travis, you're up.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Travis Burrows. I'm the project architect with Design West Architects in Meridian. And thank you to staff for presenting the project that we have. And just to add to that, As mentioned, the district plans to expand their current facility for the student use as it is under the current capacity rather than increasing capacity with this application. The addition includes approximately 6,000 square feet of classrooms on the south wing of the building and with additional restrooms there as well. And to the north side, we're expanding the indoor multi-purpose space. As mentioned, the exterior design elements will blend in with the existing facility. And site modifications include regrading the playground area for better use by the students and actually increasing the green space on the site in that area. Additionally, would be realigning pathways and bicycle pathways, pedestrian pathways as well, and including additional long-term bicycle parking. We'll be realigning the interior roadways between Payette Lakes Middle School and Barbara Morgan Elementary to help alleviate traffic within the site, which would hopefully alleviate off-site as it trickles down that way. And of course, we want to comply with everything. There were some requirements for landscaping, and we felt there was a little bit of conflict with existing snow storage areas and sight lines for pedestrian pathways, bicycle pathways coming to and from the site, and just conflicts with potential vehicular traffic there. To potentially address some of the comments already, the public comments. We've, in the mailers, it was brought up that we had, there's been several rounds of mailers going out for the planning and zoning as well as city council. Things have been pushed back several times, and we've, believe we've complied to the best of our ability as far as sending out all of the notices, and we've received quite a few returned in the mail, unfortunately. And again, the school district doesn't intend to increase student count, just rather improve the facility for the student population as it is. I believe there's other provisions for, as the student count does increase down the road or every so many years, that there would be opportunities for staff to review the process and the traffic and the occurrences there. And I think I would stand for any questions at this point.
Any questions for the applicant at this point?
No, I think the materials presented in our package have covered everything you mentioned.
Yeah, I had a question. You had mentioned that there were some conflicts with pedestrian being the pedestrian path or something like that. Can you kind of explain what those were, how those were resolved, and or if you think they were resolved to your satisfaction?
I guess, sorry, can you clarify, like with landscaping, or was that to?
More
pertain to
the
something else?
pedestrian access, I think you said, and or snow storage as well.
Yeah, at the parking lot, the idea there was the landscaping around the perimeter there, but it's already designated as snow storage. And additionally to was at the west side of the property, along Sampson Trail, there are pedestrian and bike pathways coming in there, and we feel that if we were to put too much landscaping in, of course, then we would possibly restrict sight lines too much to see. We just don't want to cause any issues with students and traffic or any other folks traveling through there. Additionally, we'll be updating some of the pedestrian and bike traffic patterns off of the intersection to help direct folks better.
Anything else? Any questions for Meredith?
We also have Morgan online if you have any transportation specific.
Sweet. Well, I guess if we're ready to move into public comment, then.
Thank you.
At this point. We did receive 10 written comments, and those were passed out to us the last few days, so everyone has had a chance to read those. No one signed up to speak online, so we will move into in-person public comment. I am having a hard time reading the first name. Laura, thank you, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, City Council, for allowing me to speak. My name is Laura McGeorge, and I am a school board trustee for McCall Donnelly School District. I happen to live in Zone 1, and Zone 1 is where Payette Lakes Middle School as well as Barbara Morgan Elementary Schools are located within my zone. And I was elected by the people in that zone, of course. And while I appreciate the support of those in my zone, as a school board member, my absolute responsibility is to put the educational welfare of our students first. And this, of course, includes their safety. And part of the the ethics that we sign at the beginning of each year, one of the things is that we make decisions based on available facts and my independent judgment, and it is with that that I'm here today. And the other is being open, fair, and honest. And so I just wanted to point that out. The school's vision is to provide safe environment for our students so that they can learn. To that end, my absolute priority as a school board member is to our students, all of our students, regardless of what zone or what neighborhood they live in. And to promote that educational value of our students, this includes their safety, because of course, without safety, we can't learn. Also, I don't know how many of you follow the news. I'm sure you all do within the state of Idaho, but down in the Treasure Valley, there have been multiple students as pedestrian and car collisions that have occurred, 3 in Caldwell District alone, and then of course Boise, Cuna, possibly Meridian, I'm not sure. But we are so lucky here to have a good, safe way for our kids to get to school, and I would not want to increase or change traffic routing to alter that. Today, I went over to the elementary school. It's a beautiful day to do that. Stood at the pickup to kind of observe what goes on over there. So I stood at the southwest corner of the elementary school. And I really have no reason to believe that today's a special day or any different day, but it was just an N of 1 as far as days go. I counted 84 cars picking up their children at the elementary school alone. There were kids, kindergartners even, walking to Fox Ridge, Sampson Trail area, Woodlands. There were 4 or 5 regular school buses. There was a special ed bus, a little ski hill bus, and that did not count all the cars. And I count roughly 20 hanging out between the 2 schools waiting for kids, and then that didn't count any cars that just went to Payette Lakes Middle School and didn't come all the way up, whether they had their kids walk down to them or they don't have kids at the elementary school. So it was organized chaos. I have to say I'm very proud of the staff and the principal for what they do to make sure that these kids are safe. I cannot imagine adding any other vehicles up there, adding to the traffic than we already have today. In fact, I would love to see more kids ride buses, but that's for another day. While I'm sorry that some of my friends and neighbors maybe are not happy with potential development, it is really not for the school to be in a situation to jeopardize student safety and add any traffic that does not belong going to the schools. Payette Lakes Middle School has been trying to expand this school and improve student safety for a few years now. The school would respectfully request that we are able to finish the job. Please let the schools move forward in completing this. That was widely supported by a bond vote a few years ago before I was on school board, but nonetheless. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, up next is Val Berg.
Didn't know if I could see over this. I can. Hi, councilmen and women, and Mayor Nielsen. I'm Val Berg. I am principal at Barbara Morgan Elementary School. And I really wish I could have brought my little elementary kids here to speak to you tonight, because when you get their perspective, it's priceless. So what I want to bring to you is just a little bit of a voice from the 5 to 12-year-olds. So for me, the action item on your plate tonight about the expansion project at Payette Lakes Middle School is more than just about them. It is about them, but it's also about our elementary kids up on the hill behind the middle school. I simply, and perhaps most importantly, want you to remember our youngest learners, those at Barbara Morgan, and their safety. They don't come to me knowing how to operate at exit and arrival. We teach them those things. And I was looking at a few of you, I'm dating myself and you, but many of you have been a part of parent drop-off and pickup at Barbara Morgan over the years, and you maybe have retired from that, but I bet the memories aren't far behind. It is truly the hardest and most stressful part of my day. It might seem silly, but it is. And I still fear, 30 years into this career, that someday I'm going to observe a tragedy up there. It's sometimes a little chaotic, a lot chaotic, but it's a well-oiled machine under the numbers we have. We currently, as Laura just talked about, have about a third of our population of our 440 kids that are picked up in a vehicle every day or dropped off in one. Another third catch the bus, the other third walk or bike from the school, and that's a pretty average number. Currently, I feel very strong as we have a strong staff and a lot of expectations and rules, as kids tell me all the time, in place to get them home safely and get them dropped off safely under the current road structure we have. So my hope is that the talk I hear sometimes of through streets or widening in my roads up through Barbara Morgan concern me about the safety of kids and my sanity of myself and my staff as well. So I just hope that you will seriously consider moving the district forward with expanding our project at the middle school while just maintaining and allowing us to continue the safe structure we have for drop-off and pickup. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, up next is Bob Cron.
Good evening, council members. My name is Bob Cron, and I've been a McCall resident for 41 years. I currently live at 295 May Road, which is just south of the elementary and middle schools. I'm here tonight to voice my support for the school district CUP because I believe the safety of our kids should always be the primary focus, especially when they're traveling to and from school. My two boys walk home from school every day, and I truly appreciate the safe routes that they currently have been provided with, which allow them to get home safely. There are also numerous other children that use these same pathways, even to go further south than our house, towards Stockton Lane and Sheila as well. So they use May Road as a safe, less traveled road to get to their homes. I've reviewed the school district's new plans, and I appreciate the additional pathways that they propose to improve the safe access to the bike path on Deinhardt and to provide a safer connection from the middle school back to the elementary school as well. I think these additions are excellent. I've followed the middle school CUP since its initial proposal a few years ago, and I'm glad to see that the idea of extending Deinhardt has been removed from that. I believe that that plan would have jeopardized the safety of my kids going to and from school, as well as all the students being dropped off in the morning or being picked up in the afternoon. So I thank you for your time this evening and for your commitment to maintaining safe access for our kids in this community.
Thanks, Bob. And up next is Scott Faraday.
Good evening, all. My name's Scott Faraday. I am a lifetime resident of McCall as well, local business owner, and known poor public speaker, so forgive that.
Scott, before you get too much further, can you state your address?
My address is 713 Woolley Avenue in McCall, Idaho, 83638.
Perfect.
Again, not a great public speaker, so I'm going to try and spit this out. I have 3 small children, 2 of which go to Barbara Morgan every morning, and I get to be the one who gets to drop them off, which I love. It's a fun part of my day, getting to take them safely to the place where they learn all day. And that's to Principal Berg's point, even though it's very well managed, it's still chaotic. There's a lot going on. There's a variety of folks that are in a hurry on any given day for whatever reason, because they're maybe running late, whatever it is. And there's already enough going on up there that if we were to complicate that by extending a city street through there, it would really jeopardize safety drastically. If anybody has been in that area of town between the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 2:30 to 3:30 p.m., you already know how congested and crowded it is up in there. I don't think adding another pathway through that zone into that neighborhood would be productive. So I support the CUP as modified, and would hope that we can keep the dead end there at the elementary school the way it is, because it's already damaged enough. I'm going to stop my poor public speaking there. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Scott. You did great. Jill Wright is up next.
Good evening. My name is Jill Wright, and I actually don't reside in the city limits, but I am a McCall resident, a lifetime resident. I live at 218 Willie Lane. But I am here tonight representing, I am the chair of the McCall Donnelly School Board. And as I sat in my office this evening preparing thoughts to share with you, one thought, an overwhelming feeling just kept coming back to me, and that was gratitude. I'm just deeply grateful for the opportunity that this decision presents for all of us. It's an opportunity to demonstrate to our constituents and to our community that we truly support one another, our students, and all of the families that call McCall home. In all honesty, it's been a little bit difficult for these past few years hearing rumors that the relationship between the city and the school district could be described as contentious or uncooperative, because I believe with my whole heart that every one of you sitting up there serves this community with your very best intentions. We all want what's best for McCall. We all want this community to thrive, and that means supporting one another. It's also a great personal honor to stand before you as a McCall Donnelly graduate. Seeing fellow Vandal alumni serving here on the city council, Mr. Nielsen, it was very point of pride for myself to see you in the newspaper in January elected as mayor.
Thank you.
I think you might have been 1 year younger, but still. For generations, the McCall Donnelly School District has helped shape thoughtful, hardworking citizens. And many of the students that walk the hallways today, including our children that will all graduate together in 2028. This legacy exists because of careful planning, responsible leadership, and a shared commitment to keeping our schools strong. When I moved home in 2014 to raise my children here, I knew that I wanted to contribute to that legacy. And in 2018, I volunteered for the Strategic Planning Committee, where community members that varied from business leaders, elected officials, parents, and residents, we all came together to define a vision for the next 5 years. And that collaboration led to meaningful growth, including the orchestra program that we now have at both the middle school and the high school, as well as our Ag Ed program that supports FFA at the high school. And that collaborative effort identified the need for a long-term facilities master plan. And I worked on that committee for over 2 years, and that resulted in the bond that passed in 2021 by over 89% of voters. That overwhelming support enabled us to have the growth that we have at the Donley Elementary. I do represent that zone, so I have to mention how proud I am that those kids finally get a gymnasium for themselves. But for nearly 8 years, that vision has been shaped by community input, strategic planning, and broader voter approval. For nearly 4.5 years, as I've served on the school board, I have witnessed firsthand how seriously we all approach these decisions that impact our community. And trust me when I say I know what it feels like to sit in your seat and know that not every decision you make will satisfy every individual. But tonight's an opportunity to honor that commitment. These plans that we've put before you are not rushed. They are not reactionary. They were thoughtfully developed by members of this community for this community. So I just ask that we stand together in partnership, the partnership that's served McCall so well for so many generations. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jill. Jake Olson is up next.
Council, thank you. My name is Jake Olson. I'm the current principal at the middle school right now at Payette Lakes Middle School. Before that, I was the principal at Donley Elementary School for 7 years, and now this is my 9th year at the middle school. At that time, as our board chair, Ms. Wright, mentioned, facilities, well, the middle school was built in 1994, but we had a facilities meeting in 2018. One that even Annette Spickard was, as a city manager at the time, was involved in that facility, those facility meetings. And at that time, being the Donley principal, that was determined that school needed to expand. That time also, we decided as the facilities team that Payette Lakes Middle School was not a project of expansion, it was a project of renovation and improvement. Like since 2020-21, the middle school actually only has a net gain of 38 students. This is not about expanding the school for growth. This is about key items that we chose that needed to happen at the middle school. And when I came over in 2017, and we had those meetings in 2018, there were a lot of fixes that needed to happen at that school, and we were already outgrowing it. And some of those things that were decided, which the bond covered at the time, we've really been able to hit some of it, but we are lacking, and mostly because of the delay. And the delay has impacted kids, and the delay is impacting kids right now, and it's important to know that. The things that we've been able to do so far is mostly to deal with safety, and it's all internal. We fixed the entryway, expanded our video system. We have keyless entry. It's kind of for like the mandates for protecting the kids from school shooters when you come into the school entryway now. Now that you have to come through the office so that the office sees you before you just open up into the cafeteria and the gym and the hallway. So a lot of that stuff has already been done. We've we've remodeled both the office and the entryway. We've remodeled the music room because we had unsupervised practice rooms, because we had students. You can imagine having middle schoolers in unsupervised practice rooms, how that leads. We've done all the outside doors with keyless entry so that we can shut down all the outside doors at a moment's notice with a button. Like lots of safety. We fixed the well, we've redone the parking lot. And those of you that have been up there and know the old way, we have better flow of families. A lot of the elementary kids are coming down because that's a nice way to pick up, so we have better flow there. But the delay are things that we've still been waiting for, and we've been waiting since 2018 to finish. And that is, at that time, we identified even then that we needed 3 new classrooms and a bathroom down the 6th grade hallway. And the reason we need that is we currently have 3 teachers in substandard classrooms. So they're not even classrooms. Our intervention program right now is in a large closet. We used it for a conference room, and it barely worked then. I mean, we are amazing in our test scores. We pass, I mean, we're top of the state, 75% kids passing. 25% of the kids that aren't passing are our intervention program. We can only teach 8 kids at a time. 25% of 350 kids aren't getting what they need. We can only do 8 kids at a time because of the size of that classroom. And finally, and I heard the bell, we have to expand the multi-purpose room because we've had to shorten our schedules and the classes offered in our school because we have to run 3 different lunch, like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade lunch classes, which has made us lose almost 7 different elective classes. Drama, guitar, all sorts of things because of the impacts that not having enough space in the cafeteria has done to our kids. So please, the delay is hurting our kids. We just, please make a great decision tonight, and thank you for your time, and sorry for going over. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake. Looks like Brett Wappen.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brett Walther. I am the city attorney, or the attorney for the school district. And I'm just going to make a couple quick comments here, emphasize a couple points, and try not to step too much on Mr. Punkney's toes here. But I think it's important to realize this is just a very small project. It's an improvement. There's no growth involved in this. And really, what you need to know is contained within the 4 corners of the CUP. As you know, this, and it's been mentioned, this is an old project. It's been going on 4 to 5 years. And during that time, the district has worked very closely with city staff to comply with their recommendations and requirements. And then they also went and applied with all the applicable building codes that would apply to this type of a very small improvement. It's really just a home improvement project to make a nicer house for the kids to go to school in. The conditions that have been imposed are perfectly allowable, and conditions, generally speaking, that are imposed on property are allowable if they're reasonably related to the project. So, for example, the snow storage requirements, the building design requirements, the parking, having bikes, creating paths, having landscaping, having traffic flow. Those are all allowable conditions on a proposal here that do not affect their property rights because they're within the ordinances, they're related to the project, and they're reasonable. It's important that this project in no way affects growth. There is going to be no increase in growth either locally or generally within the community. And that's where you start running into a problem where if you attempt, and I'm saying this colloquially, generally, to impose a dedication of an easement to accommodate future growth, which is in no way related to this small improvement project, there's a risk that that's a taking. And so for that additional reason, in addition to all the very good reasons to pass this, imposing the dedication at this requirement at this time as a condition on this project could violate the Constitution as a taking. If and when the city decides that it wants to dedicate Dinard Lane as a public thoroughfare, it certainly has the authority to do that, but that's not this project. It's the wrong tool for the job. That's apples and oranges. That public thoroughfare would be within the city's right to dedicate and require, but not as part of this project. It's kind of like bootstrapping this extra burden on this little project for something unrelated to the project. You're trying to accommodate future growth that has nothing to do with this improvement. And so for that reason, imposing it at this time could potentially be unconstitutional because if you want to do that, you certainly could, but that would be a whole different process. Many other people would need to be involved. You know, everyone along what would be Dinard Lane would need to have an opportunity to comment, and they haven't. So I'll end here. My bell went off. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment. Tim Thomas is up next.
Mayor Nielsen and members of the council, thank you for having us. I'm Tim Thomas. I'm the superintendent of the McCullough County School District. And first I'd like to start with, I need to thank City Manager Atkinson, city staffers Meredith Todd, Nathan Stewart, Morgan Shroud, and Michelle Grunfeld. We have worked together for 18 months to get to this point. We literally had our first meeting, Forrest Atkinson and I did, 2 weeks after he came on the job. We've been that dedicated to this. And I really appreciate, and it's been a pleasure working with them. And there is no conflict between the school district and the city of McCall. We are together working towards what's best for this community. I'm here to really speak about MDSD enrollment numbers and growth, and the reality of what those numbers actually are. In 2024, 2025, 2 years ago, there were 1,402 students in this school district. This year, there are 1,385. We are down 17 students. We are not growing. Our projection for next year is to be 1,360 students, to be down 25 more students. These are numbers that are directly connected to the first Friday in November, which is our funding. So I have to be right. It's not made up numbers. I have to be right or we're in trouble. And so these are our numbers. And so if you say, well, that's the school district, where is the PLMS MD or Barbara Morgan campus? Right now, there are 752 students on that campus. That's not 850. We are going to graduate from this school district 116 kids this year. Our average kindergarten classes for the last 2 years has been 90. We're going to lose 25 more. And those 25 kids are going to come off of that campus. We're projecting that campus to actually move down to 730 next year. Not grow to 850, to go down to 730. And those are concerning numbers in terms of growth, but they're in terms of you're sitting going, wow, there's houses being built, but we're not getting kids. Yeah, that's an issue, of course, but that's not this issue in terms of expanding the middle school or retrofitting it. I also want to point out as we go forward, sometimes roads aren't the answer. And when I say that is, if we have 750 kids there, there's other ways to help eliminate the traffic. Do a better job busing, school district, and more kids will ride the buses and less cars will drive there. We took over busing for the first time in 30 years this year. We're averaging 250 kids a day being delivered to that campus on buses. We're doing better and we're going to do better. We're also in the project adding bike paths and walking paths for a reason, to encourage kids to walk and bike to school, to lessen the number of cars there. We're trying to do the right thing to do that. So I appreciate your time tonight, appreciate listening to everybody, speaking in favor of where we're at tonight, and I would hope you would support our project, so thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Nancy Cron is up next.
I have nothing to add at this time.
All right. Pat Allen.
Thank you for letting me speak. I just want to say, I kind of wrote against the school district or for this CUP.
Pat, can I get a name and address real quick before?
Oh, Pat Allen. I'm at 650 Stockton.
Awesome, thank you.
I mean, I am a lifetime McCallite. I mean, he even graduated from McCall Donnelly, all that stuff. My kids did. The main, I mean, McCall has always supported the school district, and we always will, and it's an excellent, excellent education. We all know that. But you guys are sitting on a time bomb. I've heard almost all these people say about the safety. I walk that property daily, and you're sitting on a time bomb. And we have a unique opportunity right now with the Woodlands 3 is to make this thing right. I was on P&Z when we approved Fox Ridge. And for some reason, and I don't understand it at all, but 10 years after the fact that we developed that property, the city, the P&Z, your city council vacated that easement. And that easement went up, right up Dinehart. And if you look at the traffic flow, that is the only thing that makes sense right now is to go up Dinehart. And that would actually, it would help our fight because we're fighting against the Woodlands 3. It would help them tremendously to have, they need another access. That's another feeder program or feeder road going right into Sampson Trail, which is a bottleneck. They don't, and I say I've, I walk that property all the time, and no one stops at the crosswalk on Sampson Trail. I don't know how many times I've had to wave cars down because my dog is with me. I don't know how a kid can cross that street, but you're going to compound the problem if now the Woodlands 3 wants to come in through Stockton, which it will eventually be a street that goes through there. But that's going to compound the problem again because they feed right into Sampson Trail. I think it's a very good opportunity right this minute that you guys take the time to entertain. Somehow we redo that traffic around there. And you've got 3 big players in there. You got the city, you got the school, you got the developer here. I mean, I don't understand if we're going to just put this under the rug every time that we're going to have a problem or wait for a problem. You don't want to have a kid smashed first? I don't understand. I really don't. But I think that was my main points. But thank you for your time.
Thanks, Pat. Patty Sojcik?
Hi, I'm Patty Sojcik, and I live at 615 Woodlands Drive. I've been living there for 27 years now. I worked in McCall for 22 years, and I've been heavily involved in the school district the whole time I've been here. I started on the Vandal Booster Club. I've been on the school board for 12 years, served as vice president and president for 6 of those years, and was very involved in the construction of the Barbara Morgan Elementary School. So I know the entire situation over there. I am a really close neighbor to the middle school. I can hear every touchdown, every goal, every time the Star Spangled Banner is sung. I know when the gun goes off for the track meets. I am so close. I know when Jake does his announcements and what the school's doing that day. So I am very close to the middle school. I've had 2 kids that have gone through the school district, and we need to allow that school to have the flexibility to conduct the education that they need to do, have lunch however they need to do lunch, so that Jake and his staff and the administration can provide the education that we expect our children to have here. So I really, really encourage you to approve this conditional use permit for that. Now, I also think there's a connected action, and it's been mentioned by several people here, and that was the extension of Dinehart. That is currently in your southeast build-out transportation plan that the city had put together a few years ago. I would also encourage you, while you're doing this conditional use permit, also direct your staff to review that plan and make it accurate for how that part of McCall is going to function. We've heard all about the safety concerns and all that kind of stuff tonight, but please put that in your consideration, make it a different action, whatever you need to do, so that we have the safety there for everybody involved. And, in closing, I really, really encourage you to approve this conditional use permit so that the students and everybody that works there at this school can do the job they need to do and do it really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Groves.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name's Craig Groves. I reside at 154 Shadows Trail in Donley. I'm here, I submitted written comments. You guys have probably all reviewed those. I'm not going to rehash those comments, but I want to focus in on three things: growth, planning and policy, and collaboration. So about 6 months ago, I had the opportunity to meet with Clark Klaus, who is the Economic Development CEO down in the Treasure Valley. And he reminded me that he came on the job in 2010. And from 2010 to 2023, he recruited 43 companies and $10 billion in capital investment in 13 years. And then at the last part of 23, Micron announced a $25 billion expansion. Twice what has happened. And now that's 50 billion. Okay, and Clark also reminded me that Micron gave him a list of 103 companies that could be better served in the Treasure Valley that are currently not here. What I want to point out to you, the quality of life here in Valley County is spectacular. That capital investment is going to pour over into the valley. And instead of looking in a rearview mirror, we need to think about planning for it. Forrest, I listened to your podcast. You understand this. Growth is going to happen. It's a matter of whether we manage it properly or not. Now, in regards to, last thing, Stibnite, which is happening right here in the Valley County. Stibnite has a $2.3 billion capital investment. Per capita, that's bigger than what's happening in the Treasure Valley. Growth is going to happen, okay? I am not against public schools. I went to public schools. I want the school to expand, but I don't want them to look at planning in a rearview mirror. And while I appreciate Mr. Thomas's comments on growth, I just adamantly disagree with it. Okay? Look at what's happening in McCall right now. You've got Hormachia has been approved for 120 local housing units. You've got at least another 30 local housing units already approved. Whether it's rental or permanent, the state census in Fort Valley County says that there is 0.45 students per local housing unit. Okay, so that's just another 67. Yeah, granted, it's going to be spread out over many grades. But now let's talk about planning for. I'm sorry, I'm done, aren't I?
Yeah, if you could wrap it up.
Okay, I'll wrap it up real quickly. Thank you, Mayor. Down in Donley, and Donley proper, there's something like 2,500 units approved. Even if 30% of them are local, right? Over the next 10 years, that's 350 students. And they're all going to be traveling vehicle-wise to the middle school. And lastly, and I'll wrap it up, from a planning perspective, your 23-30 policy calls for a signalized intersection at Dinehart and Sampson Trail with adequate turn lanes. All the traffic studies that I have done says that that needs to happen also by 2030. Just a little over 3 years from now. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Okay, and that does it for the public comments. Is there anyone else that?
I came in late.
Yeah, come on up.
I'm gonna try and not repeat what everyone else mentioned, but my name is Elaine Murray, and I live at 19 Gold Fork Bay Circle in Donnelly. And I wanted to kind of incorporate some of what the comments were. I originally moved here from Park City, and we kind of had a shrinking school district also, and that was based on the affordability of Park City. And so as the affordability kind of went outside of reach, the people that moved in weren't they weren't really families, right? They weren't little kids, families moving in. The difference between Park City and Valley County is that we have room to expand. We can create more housing stock. There is room for people to move in. We just haven't had any development for that to happen. We still have that multi-million-dollar homes, and we will have those people with like Micron millionaires moving up. We will still have those secondary homes, but with the mines actually being a local source of employment, we will need that stock. And just Craig's developments alone, even in Donnelly, that is still our school district. So those 2,000 homes, maybe, I don't know what the percent will be for primary, but they will be primary and they will be families. And it will be kids coming back into our school district. And to kind of add to it, for how many years? 5 years, the interest rate has been high, and so it has created non-movement, people not selling their houses, not moving up, not moving down, whatever. Well, the interest rates are starting to drip down a little bit, and everyone says that once they get in the fives, anywhere in the fives, people will start moving again. So that will create room for families to start moving in again. We just haven't had much movement. So I wanted to just say I'm in favor of the school district to have an addition, but I don't want to be short-sighted, kind of like what that other man said. I don't want to be short-sighted about it. I want to include what growth really is going to look like. I'm not sure the school district, whatever formula they're using, I'm not sure, like looking at the past is actually what is going to happen moving forward. I also believe that looking at the Deinhardt extension in conjunction with the growth and the addition of the school, the two schools. I mean, the same driveway is utilized for two schools that will be expanding, student-wise, it will. So I think that the decision of making an addition needs to be hand in hand with an extension of Deinhardt, and possibly, like he said, if the traffic analysis says a signal, maybe that's, or more sidewalks, but definitely flow of traffic besides just on Sampson. I also, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to comment? No? Okay. Meredith, is there any, would you like to respond to any comments?
I don't think so. I didn't hear anything strange, outlandish, or otherwise that I feel the need to flag for you guys.
New information presented?
I think, to me, hearing the enrollment numbers and Mr. Thomas's methodology for assessing those things is new to planner eyes. I know that there was probably discussion of that with the engineers going about the traffic scoping process, but it didn't show up in my analysis. So I can ruminate on those numbers or allow opportunity for further digging into it. I'll definitely get them written down because I found them to be helpful to my processing this information. The only other thing to probably clarify is that I don't think that the city's analysis of the Southeast McCall area, and I would defer to Nathan Stewart and Morgan, our engineers relating to transportation in McCall, I don't think that we've dropped the vision or concept of East Deinhardt Lane. It's just unassociated with adjudicating this application in any way. It's really important at the city staff level that we acknowledge the roles of different levels of streets and their location and 50 years of history of where they might be best located. But we acknowledge that the nexus and proportionality as related to this application is not there. So it's still something that we don't know how to crack the nut of solving East Beinhard problem, East transportation problems, but in all of the studies that have been conducted, all of the resources that have been dedicated to looking at that problem, it continues to be identified as a thing for us to ruminate on, but not tied to this application. So.
There we have it.
I have a question. In the letters that we received, there is a allegation that there was not proper notice for some of the process to proceed. Could you address that if we have any jeopardy based on protocol?
Yeah, do you want to tackle that one, Bill?
Yeah, I think a lot of these comments and things came in fairly recently, and so my recommendation on that sort of thing, and generally speaking, just to process the information we received today, would be to conduct whatever, probably to continue the public hearing to another date so that we can evaluate that. I think we need to have a chance to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't, on the spot, tell you whether it's a right or wrong.
No. Great, thanks. That gives us a course of action.
Yeah, every single mailing list gets stored, every single correspondence where those are provided gets stored and looked at, so we would have to compare exactly what happened, especially going back to the planning and zoning stage, and receiving that notification or that challenge yesterday makes it difficult to make a detailed ruling between myself and legal staff in 8 working hours, so.
Meredith, I have
Yes.
a couple questions, and maybe this is for Nathan as well. But in the staff report, in the findings of facts and conclusion of law, there are some other conditions that are put on approval of this CUP. So the other condition number 1 is at such time as enrollment is to meet or exceed 850 students on campus, an updated conditional use permit will be required with an updated traffic impact study. Can you or Nathan kind of walk me through that? What is the, why is that condition there? What's the purpose of it? Sort of, how is that gonna function in the future? I mean, we're talking about maybe 25 years from now, having the school do a traffic impact study. What would be the purpose for it, or what would be the outcome of that?
Yeah, so the existing campus capacity is set by a previously issued conditional use permit. So that being a condition of approval for the maximum number of students to be enrolled on the campus, it only allows for so much. So we're identifying at this time, although that campus capacity isn't changing, we want to reiterate that that already established capacity is something that we need to deal with in the larger transportation system. So it's kind of reiterating the conditional use assumption from the previous conditional use permit application from, I believe it was 2006 or 7, it's in my notes somewhere. But then the condition number 2 below that, I've done my best to identify hopefully a framework to be working with the school district in anticipation of that day coming, where on August 1st of each year was the day I threw out, because that gives us time leading into the school year to be thinking throughout that school year. If it happens immediately, say there's another COVID incident, and we have a huge growth in our school system again for a limited duration of time, at least we have a school year to be able to ponder how are we going to navigate going over that 850 number. If we need to change that date, knowing that Tim Tom gets his enrollment numbers or has to settle them on November 1, I'm open to those suggestions. It's just my best effort to identify a good lead time, like a whole school year, to at least be ready to approach that number being exceeded. Do I have any idea what would happen on the day student number 851 shows up on campus? I don't. I don't think that you want current city planner or future city planner walking to the school property and arresting a bunch of 5-year-olds. But I hope that we catch that before it's coming and deal with, the Southeast traffic problem in general before we hit the campus capacity number, because I don't want to be the public servant that says kids can't go to school. And I don't think you want to be the city council that does that either.
I
So,
probably won't be here in 25
right,
years. So whatever, yeah.
fair point. I don't know if that answers your question or if.
It does, but
Okay.
one of my concerns with it is, you know, I mean, we usually have a traffic impact study done on development, and it is to mitigate the impacts of traffic on that development. And it usually imposes, if there are going to be impacts, it does impose certain types of mitigation, whether it's,
Yeah.
you know, turn lanes, signals. Could it be an expansion of Dinehard in this case? You know, this is 25 years from now, or maybe
Yeah.
not, but, you know, different council, there's still gonna be that history of that, and my concern is, you know, is that intent of that traffic study, or could that intent of that traffic study be to impose conditions on the school that may be difficult to meet? You know, if that new city staff and new planning people, you might be here in 25
Oh, I
years.
hope not. I won't be allowed to
But, you
retire
know,
yet.
if they're gonna say, hey, 851, you need to expand Dinehard on your dime.
Yeah. Nathan, do you want to speak to that?
Nathan Stewart, Public Works Director, and Morgan Stroud, our city engineers, on the team's link as well. So the transportation impact study that was provided to us did show that when attendance exceeded 850, that intersection would fail more routinely. There's a perception in the community that it fails today. The statistics and the data presented do not indicate that. And although you may see tremendous traffic for a very brief period of time in the morning or in the afternoon, it did not reach a threshold where we were able to say, okay, as long as you don't exceed 850, you have zero mitigation, right? And for the benefit of the audience in the room, for the many years that this staff has worked with this applicant, we were trying to find an opportunity. Is there a win-win where, with the combination and the collaboration of developers and the school district, could there be a solution that would help improve safety, improve EMS access to the campus, alleviate the concerns that you can't get emergency vehicles there by potentially taking a whole new fresh look at where people stage, where people park, how people get there. That opportunity still exists, but it's certainly not a requirement of the approval of this conditional use permit tonight. So we still have that opportunity to get creative. We can all get in a room and pull out the whiteboard and come up with ideas, but it's certainly not on the table today. To your question, what we know is that if that project exceeds 850, independent of any other activity that's going on in that intersection, it will not function properly. And so we wanted to make sure that was clearly identified. How the community or the city decides to enforce that is up to you as the council. It's our job to inform you that that's the threshold. And the school district isn't asking for any more capacity. So I think it's just important to note it. And we work with our legal counsel and we work with what's proportionally required for developers. So I don't know, Bill, if you could answer a question of what would be required of the school if they go beyond that, but we certainly would want to provide an open dialogue to evaluate it.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. City Attorney Bill Punkeny. No, I can't. That's a technical question.
Yeah.
That's an engineering question
Yeah.
and a legal question.
Sure.
That, I mean, we'd have to have those facts in front of us.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, we just can't design it on the fly. This is something that we have to take the time to do.
Yeah, yep. I think what's important is we get public comment about, who's responsible and how can that burden be borne on the developer or, whatever organization or industry or the school district as a whole. We all have to contribute to building this community, and our job as staff is to try to make sure that's fair and equal and it doesn't get unfairly placed on the taxpayer. And so that's the threshold that we know based on their data that they provided us. That's where we have to get serious and start getting creative on mitigating problems. Does that help?
And maybe just one more thing to add, because this is something that was discussed between staff and the school district, was we're really evaluating this UP based on kind of current scenario and the predictions of sort of no expansion of students. However, if there is another physical expansion of the school, it will require a new application. So at that point, we would have an opportunity to reevaluate, at the time of application, what the traffic impacts are and what mitigation might be.
Right, so
needed.
you're saying if there was another CUP to expand the school based on exceeding this 850, but if there's not, I mean, this is saying, I mean, it, you know, and I think, sorry, I'm going back to this. It says an updated conditional use permit will be required, so procedure-wise, would that mean that it would go through another public hearing?
Correct.
Okay.
And I don't think that's inconsistent with any other type of land use development or any other conditional use permit that has capacity restrictions. So if you had an apartment complex and they wanted to add 10 more apartments, but their conditional use permit was only allocated to 850 units, the expectation is that we would reevaluate and say, what impacts does that have on the neighborhood?
Yeah, my only concern about this is the adding of students is not really their doing. I mean, it is all the other development that is coming in here that they can't control. I mean, you know, they're not
sure.
gonna be up here making the decision
Yep.
about Woodlands 3 or whatever and being
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's gonna add a lot of traffic in this area and those people are gonna have 0.45 kids per local housing unit and adding that many students and that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, or, you know, they can't say like, well, no, develop up north of Sampson Trail because there's less traffic there or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think, you know, I mean, that's what I'm kind of trying to
Yep.
you know, discuss this in terms of that sort of, you know, putting the burden on the school in however many years it takes to absorb all the other development that the city has approved.
Yeah, and I think this is, I mean, the school district is one parcel in an area that has relatively large undeveloped. So we're likely to see other development come in that's gonna probably trigger some intersection improvements as well, and so.
Right, and development all the way down south and
Exactly.
I mean, all those kids coming up from the elementary school to Payette Lakes, which again, the school doesn't have any control over that.
Correct. I mean, they're one player in sort of a whole region and sort of a known traffic situation. And I think, you know, we'll definitely be looking at that area of town too as we enter into our transportation master plan, because again, our job as the city is to plan, you know, for those traffic systems into the future. So what's happening currently and then ultimately what's sort of the desired situation, so.
I share Julie's, that we don't want to be interpreted in, oh, thanks, Michelle, I must have. I just didn't, we didn't want to be interpreted that in 20 years, somebody looks back upon this council meeting and says, you put some kind of burden on the school at 850, whereas Superintendent Thomas mentioned, you know, between buses and incentives to ride bikes and that, we don't even know what the transportation requirement's gonna be. So it's just, well, the inflection, I think, or reflection is, we're not trying to, at this point in time, say that's a trigger, and city staff and of those people involved will have some kind of reciprocity as they do to who creates that traffic, but at 850, they could possibly have less traffic, be generating less traffic than they are now. We don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean, if we've got hover cars going on, then we've got two transportation systems involved, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are other,
Yeah.
there's gonna be other transportation, we hope, by then.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and just to kind of put a cap on Julie's point, I see you behind me with your hand up, and I know we're outside of the public hearing, so I'll defer that part to the mayor, but, or we're still in the public hearing. I think it's a really important question of how do we saddle the school district or any public agency for that matter with the problem that is growth or with the challenge that is growth? How do we saddle ourselves as the city with that question? I ask all the time. The rest of your agenda tonight grapples with that question related to the water system. And I think, unfortunately, our role in public service or our privilege in public service is to deal with it, right? And so to the best of our ability, you know, reestablishing that we don't have a terrible relationship with the school district, there was just a temporary bump. I think we can work really, really hard year after year, checking in with the district, seeing the subdivisions that are getting applied for in the jurisdiction, outside of the jurisdiction, and help the school district advocate for needs as they come up. You know, we see in the Treasure Valley or other school districts, folks will advocate for more field space, for practice facilities as subdivision development occurs. And that's entirely within the realm of abilities in working with the school district and the city too. So if it ends up being that, you know, the solution to growth in this community ends up being another school inside or outside of our jurisdiction, maybe that's the role of those conversations. We don't know, just like we don't know about flying cars yet. But I don't think that we get to say somebody is exempt from growth just because it's not their fault, right? So that's what I'll put on that subject. I'll let you, Mr. Mayor, decide if you want to take further public comment.
It seems we got a few people raising hands and further public comment. I guess before we get into that, what, Bob, do you have anything to add?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I think we definitely should take all the public comment, make sure that's a priority tonight. People that raise their hands and if others raise their hands. I think it's extremely helpful, very helpful. And then, based on Bill Punkeney's advice, who I will use the words who has had a chance to look a little bit into what I'll call allegations brought to us about perhaps some procedural errors in either in the planning and zoning. Procedural errors meaning maybe people weren't notified. So that needs to be taken very seriously. And after this is closed, after we hear all comments and we deliberate, I have some suggestions for council to consider about which of the options that are in our, there were 5 very good options to consider tonight.
And Mike, do you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add. I'm on board with what I think want to hear more about what Bob's suggesting.
Great. So I saw 2 hands come up. Our public comment period has ended. We'd grant a very quick comment if you guys feel okay with that.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Especially if it's related to new information that's been discussed, I think that that's appropriate.
In particular, if it's new information.
So I would recommend that we allow them 3 minutes, just like the other people. That would be my thought.
Mr. Childs took care of, Councilman Childs took care of me, so I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. Pat, would you like to come up and speak?
I'll be less than that.
Okay.
You know, Pat Allen, 650 Stockton again. Thank you for letting me speak again, but, you know, numbers don't really matter. I mean, if our population goes up 1, why are you guys fighting this thing? It's your responsibility to get this traffic flow going right. And we have 1 traffic jam in McCall, and it's in the morning and it's afternoon, and everybody knows where it is. I mean, traffic goes clear back to 55. Come on, let's get this thing going. I've heard all this other stuff, and I'm not trying to hold up the school at all, but when are we going to have a decent traffic plan around here? I mean, we've heard this since the school went in. And I'm tired of fighting the same issue. And that was when we came here a couple years ago, you know, with the school again. That was the traffic. Let's get it done. And the Woodlands, I mean, they have enough population now. They're going to be very vocal, especially in the next election. And I hope they are. Thanks.
Thanks, Pat. Okay.
Mrs. Cron would like to
Oh.
address.
Could I speak now?
Yeah. Okay.
Give you some time.
My name's Nancy Cron. 906 Ann Street is my address. I've lived in McCall for 47 years. 4 of my children have graduated and gone through the McCall-Donley School District. When my kids were in school, the numbers were about as big as they ever were. McCall-Donley enrollment is way below what it was then. Tim Thomas and I have had this discussion, and I'm glad to see that the school district is recognizing that, because for a long time we heard, oh, it's just going to expand, it's just going to expand. I think that, yes, it's too bad that there is such a bottleneck there at the school district intersection, but I don't believe that extending Dinehart Lane through the school district property is the answer to that. Back in 2010, when Fox Ridge was approved, they gave up half of the right-of-way. And now to expect the school district to give that full right-of-way through property where all of our kids and my grandkids are going, I think that's ludicrous. It's not good for the kids. It's not good for the general population. It may benefit a developer, but that's not my concern. That is not how we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other? Craig, you want to step up real quickly?
So again, I want you to know, I'm not opposed to the school developing.
Please state your name.
Craig Groves, 154 Shadows Trail, Donnelly, Idaho. I raise my hand because the fact of the matter is, when the school district bought this property in 1978, there was a 70-foot easement entirely on their property. And the school district has been whittling away at that year after year after year after year, and it's wrong. I mean, it existed there in the first place. And so, you know, I don't really care whether Dinehart gets extended or not. I don't personally need that. I really don't. The traffic's already there. The traffic studies say there needs to be a traffic light, left-hand turn lanes by 2030 at that intersection, whether anything gets developed. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig. Okay. We should probably keep moving here.
But we're gonna keep the public hearing
The
open.
public hearing is still open. I think Meredith might want to respond to something.
No, I have no response. I'm just here to help you.
So the applicant to respond to
Does the applicant wish to respond to any of the comments that just came up?
choose one.
Yeah.
Travis Burrows, Design West Architects. Just to reiterate with the comment about the Dinehart extension and the easement that the school district had already dedicated their 35-foot portion of that, and that the Fox Ridge development didn't give up their 35-foot portion of that. So I think that just kind of eliminates the feasibility of even extending Dinehart. I just wanted to point that out. I don't think that it would be, on the school district, their burden to provide an additional 35 feet just to accommodate the roadway going through there. Again, we've discussed safety. Maybe a light at that intersection does make a lot more sense, but again, it's not part of this application or condition at the moment. So that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
I think Laura wanted.
I'm gonna take one more.
Does it, how would you word this, Meredith? Is it new information pertaining to this discussion?
No, I don't really think so. I mean, you're getting to the part where you're deciding, do you want to take further testimony? But I mean, I can see Bill reaching for his mic, so I'm just going to let him have thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, if it's in response to any new facts that were raised since she last testified, then fine. I mean, but at some point we have to
Yeah,
cap
we
it
wanna
off.
Keep moving.
Yeah.
And so, that being said, do you feel like this is new information in response?
seconds and yes.
Step on
Thank
it.
you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, sorry, Laura McGeorge again. I did forget to say I'm at 901 Camas. One other just little thing I would like to point out, I don't know if people are aware, there's a trend of decreasing public school enrollment even when you have more children, and that has to do with people homeschooling or doing online schooling and other things. So I don't think historically how many kids per household that applies to. And then the other thing, of course, is I live in Spring Mountain Ranch. I only know of 1 or 2 families in that entire subdivision that have children that attend public schools. So many of our new developments, and that one's not new, but so many of our developments don't have school-age children, and they're often second homes, as you know, and or short-term rentals. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Lyle, Julie, anything else to add, questions?
I don't have anything else.
I only when when we look at the concern about improper notice at the previous P and Z meeting, does that indicate that we should keep the public hearing open through a later date? Meaning that 2 weeks or the week, or could we go ahead and have our discussion even with the public hearing being open and kind of come to a conclusion contingent upon the
Mayor and council, I presume that's directed at me. I think there's maybe some loose ends that, if for no other reason, staff, myself, just need to look at it so that we can give you a solid analysis. And I'd like to leave the public hearing open just in case we need to augment the record to some extent at another meeting. We may simply close the public hearing at the next time we bring this up and then engage in deliberations. But just because there are some legal and factual questions outstanding, my recommendation would be to leave the public hearing open, continue it to a date certain, and then so that staff, myself, have a chance to understand some of the legal issues that have been raised.
Yeah, and that's what I've been picking up on, and there's fortunately, Meredith, in our packet, if we look at page 15, there is an option, there are 5 options that we were encouraged to consider. And after speaking for just one member of council and listening to Bill really carefully, there is an option number 3 that, with a little bit of edits like you suggested, leaving the public hearing open to a date certain, we can get to where we need to get.
And you could even modify number 3 to still direct staff to prepare provisional findings and conclusions. I don't think that they would be prepared for your adoption at that meeting because you still have yet to deliberate. But we could at least have a working document going so that that process could move more quickly due to the timing and pause and delay.
Also, we need to identify what we want more information on.
Yes.
And so one would be this notice issue.
Yeah, in my words, we need to know whether we have a procedural error, whether it occurred at planning and zoning or here, and get that resolved. And Bill needs time to work with staff and affected parties to figure that out. So it seems like option 3 with the language that Bill and Meredith and you have suggested would get us there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be perceived as pre-decisional, making a decision tonight.
Sure.
So I'm not really comfortable with saying, get all the forms ready that supports that we're going to make a decision, yes.
Sure.
To that same,
thoughts?
to the same extent that Bob spoke, I don't perceive if any new information is going to change how I feel about the outcome and what choice I want to make. So if the date's certain, and in the public hearing somewhat addresses the potential procedural error. I think that's important. But in terms of timing and how we rapidly get everybody's able to react to a decision we want to make. I don't want to go, I don't want to keep extending the deliberations and have everybody else have to come back for another week when the really thing, what we need to hear is it procedurally correct or it isn't.
Yeah.
And for me, that's kind of where I am in terms of my decision.
Okay.
Julie?
Yeah, we need to definitely address the procedural issues. I don't think there's any other information I need on any other issues from the applicant or from staff. As far as preparing the findings of fact, you know, I mean, I know it's in the interest of everybody and especially the school to have this going, to be done, whatever the decision is to be done. If it's a denial, then it won't matter, or if it's a remand to P and Z, it won't matter if we have those findings of facts in front of us. So, because it's just the process is going to be delayed. It's going to have to restart. But if we did have a draft findings of facts for approval, that could speed up this process if we were to decide to approve. So I don't see that as being a predetermination on our part with that respect. It's just, I mean, you know, there could be modifications, of course, to what you draft up anyway, but that could speed it up just by that one meeting to have that, and if we decide to approve it, even with modifications, to just have that already ready to go.
Sure.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
I would suggest that we go ahead and just basically follow what everybody else has just said here, is just evaluate that question and then have ourselves lined up to move forward subject to the answer.
Got it. I'm on board with that as well. I think that it wouldn't hurt at all to have the findings worked on.
And to
And-
clarify, I'll only fill out the procedural section. I won't fill in or assume your decisions within that document.
And I think that, yeah, like Julie stated, if something changes, then
Sure.
it's a moot point. We need to pick a date to be certain on
March 12th.
March 12th.
Do you want to do that one or you wanted land use on the 3rd, or are you comfortable with March 12th being the second Thursday?
I will not be here on the 3rd
Oh.
Thursday.
Then you're going to take the second.
So, I mean, the 12th or the 19th.
Okay.
I would prefer the 12th if that works for everyone. I'd like to continue to be at the meeting.
I think it's really important that we have all 5 of us, so if
agree.
if we can commit to March 12th, we should do that.
I think that's a good decision to get it on the closest council meeting we can get it on to keep everything moving along.
And, Mayor Colby, before we close, we haven't closed the public hearing, is that correct?
Correct, and you will not be closing it.
Great. Can I make a few observations, just as one member of council, about tonight's meeting?
Please do.
On this topic?
Yep.
Okay. So I want to speak to everyone in the audience. It was extremely helpful to me. I think all of us learned a lot. We appreciated everyone's comments, and we learned a lot. And I believe there's some things that council, once this issue, this project, the CUP has been addressed properly at the March 12th meeting, there's some things that the city can do on our own that I think would be really helpful. I'll just give an example. And the reason I'm sharing this example is because without your testimony and without your conversations tonight, I wouldn't have thought about it. Someone mentioned how, I think it was the gentleman in the back with the baseball cap. Your name is Pat, correct?
Yep.
and you walk that area every day and you said how unsafe you feel in that crosswalk. We have some good safety features right across the street from the police station. So those are signals, those are, happen to be solar powered. But I think the city could commit to trying to figure out how to make those existing crosswalks right there at Sampson and Spring Mountain Boulevard safer. And I know everyone on council cares about this, and we would work with city staff and our budget to make sure that could happen. And there's no reason to delay that. And then my last comment was, I'll use the term midterm planning. I think the city is committed to, after learning a lot of things tonight and reviewing things over the past 2 years, to figure out how we can address growth around the middle school with traffic. And I think we're very open to that, not just kicking the can down the road, but making some changes that are acceptable to our constituents, the school district, and et cetera. And we're committed to working on that. Council doesn't want to just delay things. So thanks, everyone. I really learned a lot on this issue. It was very helpful. And I appreciated everyone's civility and their integrity and honesty with us.
Thanks for those comments, Bob. We probably share the same opinion on that. It's an issue and a concern that will not get any better without action and diligent work on it. So can we get a motion to carry this forward?
Yeah, I move to continue the public hearing for CUP 25-02 to the March 12th City Council meeting to allow time for staff and the city attorney to provide more information on the potential procedural issues that were identified in public comments.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Mayor Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezek,
Yes.
All right, motion carries, and we will get you back here as soon as we can. What do you guys think about taking a quick break before we delve into the water treatment plant discussion?
Yes.
All right, let's take 5.
Meredith, do you have anything to add? I don't think so. It looks pretty straightforward.
You guys ready to keep rolling?
Yes, never better. I just said
Okay.
it's.
Okay, Mike, we're gonna get going again here.
Excellent.
All right. So that we're getting into the business agenda, and then the next two items are kind of related to each other. And I felt that it would be good to get an update on, kind of our election plan, the bond election plan, and the information. I think Nathan has some information to share with us on rates, et cetera, what this looks like. So I feel like it'd be good to discuss this before the bid discussion. Nathan?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Nielsen, Nathan Stewart, Public Works Director. We certainly felt like having this discussion in advance of your next agenda bill would be very informative. So to back up and remind us what our direction was. In January, you rejected all bids that were received for the water treatment plant expansion. We had a work session on the anticipated cost increases that we were facing on that project based on the bids that we did receive. We talked about the options that the council has, and financing significant project increases provides you with an opportunity to decrease the rate increases that we would have to face. So staff has done that. We've engaged with Skinner Fawcett, which is our bond counsel. They have prepared a draft bond election ordinance, and there are blanks that we can fill in based on certain decisions that are made. And Forrest, you have copies of that?
I do.
Correct? So we can provide that to you right now. I think the purpose and goal of this this first agenda bill is to talk about a couple things. One is that I've worked with Bowen Collins, and Greg Losher's on the call. I have a couple things we need to get prepared for here since my computer took me off the meeting. And then I also think we have a brief presentation by Aaron to talk about the schedule. Right? So what we can do first, and give me a moment here. We received our bids for the second bid last Wednesday. And so now we do know what we believe to be the respective low bid and the associated project cost. I'm going to join the meeting so I can share my screen.
One is track change and one is clean. So I don't know if they all got the right one. Okay.
So hopefully you're not getting any feedback. I'm going to share my screen. Maybe.
They're a loud bunch out there. They're a loud bunch out there.
Okay. Things are coming together here. So this afternoon, we put together these tables, and I'll try to blow them up as best I can. These are your current rates in 2026 and the two net rate increases that the council anticipated when we took out the $16.5 million bond ordinance. These net increases were typically 3, and we knew we had to make them 5 to cover that debt. Now, there was existing city funding, reserve funding and other things, that kept that need to raise rates at that amount. So you have an option, and I want to talk a little bit about that. We believe the project, at its minimum, based on the low bid, would be about 23.5 million. It's about $7 million additional cost to the project. That takes into account all of your existing reserve funding, and doesn't leave a lot of room for adjustment, or if there's a problem that's encountered. But probably more importantly, it doesn't give you the option to finance additional capital costs that the bond ordinance allows you to do so. If you recall, there was a water main between the water treatment plant and the top of Majestic View that we did not award as part of the water storage tank. Both your low bid contractor that you'll hear in a little bit, as well as Debco, who's doing your tank, have the capabilities to do that. And our water master plan, and the projection is that project needs to occur in 2028 or 2029. So if we had additional debt authority, we could finance that, and that could help us accomplish that in a timely manner, and not have as significant negative impact on rates. So there's an advantage if we're going back to the voters to ask for 10 million as opposed to 7 million, because that gives us these options. You will also have received, the city was awarded a $3.4 million loan for lead and copper line replacements. And that comes with a 1% interest rate and a 49% loan forgiveness. Now, that hasn't even been on the table or any discussion, because we've been trying to navigate through this current challenge. If the council were to go for a $10 million bond authority, that would avail you the option to potentially take on additional debt in a very, provided it was an advantageous scenario. 1% interest rate, 50% loan forgiveness, those types of things might be very persuasive, because it would help save the ratepayers significant money. And it would save you having to go back to the voters again. And it's a small amount above and beyond what we need to complete this project. So staff, Forrest included, we're trying to strategize to say, what can we do to put the council in the best position to keep rates low. So this option that I'm showing you on the screen here kind of contemplates that. And so if this additional 7 million that we need to contribute to this project was able to have a successful bond election in May, the rate increase for 2027, instead of being 3, would be 5%. If we ended up determining that we really wanted to utilize that additional 3 million, that rate increase would be 7. So, and again, the debt, the loan, that additional expense is 2% above the baseline of 3%. So every year we have established 3% rate increase is essential and necessary just to keep up with inflation. So you're really talking about, 2 percentage points in a rate increase is the difference in providing yourself some options there. Any questions? Yeah, please go ahead.
And that extra 5%, that is over just how many years?
For years 27 and 28.
Okay, I'll make sure.
Yeah. At that point, your rates are high enough that we're well positioned to handle those debt payments for the next 20 years.
Okay, so we'll do 5%, so that creates a new base. And then we create the 3% on the base. We don't,
No. So the 5% includes the 3%.
yeah,
The 2% of that 5% is strictly a result of taking on the additional 7 million.
yeah. I think I get that. It just, I was thinking in our third year, the base now will include 2 years at a 2% increase. So when we increase 3%, it will be 3% on the second of the 5%.
Correct.
So it does add a little bit of a cumulative effect.
Oh, it most certainly does. And
Okay,
what's very
okay.
important to note here, and this is a detail, and I don't want to get you guys too confused, but in our water master planning, Bowen Collins talked to you about the revenue that you're generating from base rates versus volume. And we worked very hard as a council and staff to figure out options and ideas for how we could have high users pay more because they have a larger. So what I'm showing you here is without this project, without any debt, we anticipated keeping the base rate at a 2% growth every year. And I can talk about the 4% in a little bit. What happens when we increase from 3 to 5%, we put all that burden on volume. And when we did that in 26, we put all that burden on volume. We didn't change this 2%. So we're generating a net increase of 5%, but the significant increases are coming in the volume use. And that's so we can get our revenue down to about 70% revenue from base rates, which is guaranteed. You know, continuous billing, it's the minimum amount you pay every month. And we bring it down from where it was 5 years ago, 83%, down to 70%, and then 30% is coming from volume use. So these rate increases through the financing options and even the cash funding, those high users are going to see that impact much more significantly than those that are really just trying to pay the bare minimum and use as little amount of water as possible. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's an equitable thing. And I think it also, you know, is a nod to recognizing those that are on more of a fixed income that they do have options. Rates increase, but the impact on those individual customers is less than those that may be using a lot more water. Any questions?
So for 27 and 28, if you're just using water under the base rate, you're only getting a 2% increase, even though we take out this additional bond. Is that what that's showing up there?
Well, it's slightly higher than 2% because you are in block 1, your first 5,000 gallons. So this it was 2.28, it went to 2.26. But down here at the bottom is showing you what your typical, and I worked really hard the 4 or 5 o'clock hour trying to get this figured out. Typical residential bill is not your average, it's your typical for simplicity purposes. The average might be slightly less, but a $4.87 rate is what your typical water user in McCall would see as their increased monthly bill in 2027. And this 3% increase from 28 to 29 would be about $2.40. So this is your much more moderate increase approach, because option 2, which I show you, is what we talked extensively about, which is a very challenging situation. Are you ready to go to option 2?
So just on the net rate increase, you have 5 to 7%.
Yep.
Is that the difference between 7 and 10?
Correct.
Million?
And we do not have to take, if we get bonding authority for 10, we certainly don't have to take it. And so if there are no viable opportunities to use that money, if there's no reason to take out additional debt because it's not going to help you keep rates lower, staff would certainly not recommend that you do that. It's really that situation of saying, working with our financial advisor, Michael Keith, and saying, hey, we think you should add this component to the project. We have that, that's one example is the 24 inch water main. It's about $1 million. Ironically, one bidder was lower on that bid alternate, but was not the aggregate low bidder. But that bidder may be back in the playing field now where we can change order that into the project and we can see what they have to say there. So those are situations that we would come back to the council. You could debate that and make your decision accordingly. But in your bond ordinance, you might choose, instead of going for just 7, to go to 10, because the difference in the rate increase is only 2% for 2 years. And whether that has a significant sway on how voters perceive what's necessary.
So that bottom increase from previous year, what is that number based off of? 5% or 7%?
That's the impact to the typical ratepayer. So this is a little bit higher than 5% because the typical residential bill is higher than, help me out here, Greg.
Yeah. So in answer to that question, the bottom 2 lines are calculated based on the 5% increase.
Okay.
Not on the 7.
Not on
They're
the
the 5%.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
And similar to that, if you are a block 1 user, you're saying the typical residential user, which is probably block 3 to say, but if you're a block 1 user, and then your increase per month is gonna be less, we're showing roughly 4s to 5s, but if you're a block 1 user, it's gonna be like $2 a month. Is that right?
Potential. Greg, can you pull up your graph that shows what a typical user is? A typical user actually goes into block 2 in the summer.
Yes. Is it okay? Is it okay if I share my screen?
You bet.
I got you. So a typical user is block 1.
And block 2 for a very short
Yeah,
period of time.
The average, or not, yeah.
We'll show you. Zoom in on that just slightly so that they can see it.
Okay, so block 1 is your volume use below this line here, and that basically encompasses indoor use, winter use. The typical or average user, single family home, would typically go up into block 2 in the summertime and in the fall, and typically not much above that. So a typical user would use both block 1 and block 2 volume charges. About 20 to 30% of your revenue comes from the base charge. Excuse me, about 20 to 30% of your revenue comes from the volume charge, and 70 to 80% from the base charge.
Or that answers my question to an extent. Thanks.
Can we just talk about the other DEQ loan possibility real quick, the low interest?
Sure.
So that there's a DEQ program to help cities pay for federally mandated lead and copper line replacement. And that's the program with the 1% loan and the 49% forgiveness. So that having that extra borrowing authority would allow the city to potentially avail itself of those funds to do projects that we're going to have to do eventually anyway, right, Nathan?
Exactly. Right now, we have about 16 to 18 months to come up with a 10-year replacement program for any lead and copper line. That's not lead, not copper, any lead or galvanized line that's in the system, and it's just the service line from the main, but it goes to the house. So we've always operated under the premise, and legally our position, with the Department of Plumbing, is that our jurisdiction goes to the meter. And that's the DEQ rules, but the EPA has mandated that water utilities are now responsible for imposing and enforcing replacement to the house. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean the ratepayer has to pay it. You could decide that you want the property owner to pay it. But The rules on the books today are that 10 years after October of 2027, we have to have all of that eliminated. And so very soon, and as part of this water master plan, and over the next 16 to 18 months, we will have these plans and projects into the CIP, and we'll be searching for ways to get funding and grants. And the grants will come for the lead and copper stuff, the lead and copper replacement program, because that's where the federal government is providing money to the states. We're not seeing any opportunities for grant funding for typical water treatment plant upgrades or anything like that, and we've talked a lot about that. There's some funding for disenfranchised communities. We don't qualify for that because the water rates compared to our average annual income, the ratio's not there. If these rates were $200, they might qualify. And we will aggressively and continually look into any and all options to find grants to cover these costs. But that, as we, this has been a pretty progressive project. We were not in this situation in mid-December. We were in it heart and heavy in January. We're now at the end of February. We said, what else can we do if we're going to go back to the voters to position us well to help keep rates low? Rates are going to go up, but how fast they go up depends on the way we strategize.
Nathan, option one that you've been discussing the last 10 minutes, does it include the DEQ 49% possible grant and 1% interest? Is that in that?
It potentially would if we had $10 million of additional bonding authority, and we only use 7 of that to complete the water treatment plant. You still would have 3 left, and if you decided to go into a $3 million loan, which you probably wouldn't because I think we only qualify for 3.5, and half of that would be loan forgiveness, so you're probably looking at like a $1.75 to $2 million loan. You'd still have another $1 million left of bonding of debt authority. But let's just say you used it all, because then you also decided to add in that 24-inch water main. So now your total loan agreement with the DEQ is $26.5 million at 2.75% or some combination thereof. 7% rate increases is what you would need to make sure that your rates were well positioned to pay those 20-year loan payments and still continue your CIP as proposed.
Yeah, it seems like that's what we want to do. We don't just want to keep rates low, we want to get all the work done. So you've brought us a good proposal, it seems like.
Again, this will require a successful bond election, so it will be up to the ratepayers.
The next scenario is if we fund this project, right?
You were going to talk to us about option 2, and so give us a quick snapshot of that, and
Okay.
hopefully.
This isn't fun,
Okay.
but it's important. So we know we have 16.5 million of bonding authority, of debt authority. We have a current loan agreement with the DEQ up to that. We have not actually requested any funds yet. We've spent $4 million. We talked a lot about that. So based on what we know today, and this is to complete our project, we would need to raise rates 18% more than the 3% base rate 2 years in a row. So that's why you're seeing 21 here and you're seeing 21 here. And at that magnitude, we can't keep the base rate low. We have to raise the base rate 18% and 18% because 74, 75% of your revenue is coming from base rates. So we can't utilize that tool. And you see in 29, we would then reduce the water rates by about $26.10 per month to get us back down to where we were before if we just had 3% rate increases along the way. Does that make sense?
Yes, so That's why it's so important that we have a successful bond campaign and that we explain all of these things, because our constituents are smart people and they would like option one, based on what you've told us.
So the question on this, what is the bigger picture position financially that those 2 years of 18% interest pays for project, and does it affect what we have in reserves of the ability to deal with any emergency situations or continue with our CIP elsewhere in the system?
So this 18% on top of 3%, 21% rate increase only funds the project and uses all of your reserve, but it does allow you to continue your CIP as you were presented back in June. And certainly, if we got into this situation where we had an unsuccessful bond election, we would work with you as hard as possible to figure out what we could do to reduce this. And Colby, you and Forrest and I had a brief discussion about, what this was going to look like. But I think what's most important is that anything we do has negative consequences when we don't fund them. So you have money in your budget in 2020, proposed money in your budget for $300,000 to replace old meters that aren't reading correctly. You're losing revenue on those. But that may not be something that you actually want to do, so we would look at that. So this is your worst case scenario. It's the apples to apples comparison, but by no means are you committed to making this decision tonight that you're going to set those rates. This August and September, you will make a decision on rates, and you may have an opportunity to finance, and you're looking at this number. And if the community decides they don't want to finance it, we'll work with you on what you want there.
And how does this impact that lead and copper replacement loan?
Not an option. In the state of Idaho, to take out public debt, you need debt authority from the electorate. And so had this project come in on budget and everything was gravy, I'd likely be back here sitting talking to you about this option to take out debt, and you'd be back at another bond election for just lead and copper. Lead and copper funding. But now that we're back here talking about a bond election, it's just appropriate that we do it. It's efficient, and it helps the council add tools to your tool belt to manage rates. And like I said, we don't have to go beyond the projects that we're committed to right now, but we will have to address that plan, and we may decide not to take the current loan offer because there's a lot of moving parts in what those projects allow. It's very hard to just replace lead or the service line. We expected that funding would allow us to also replace the water main. And the way we do projects, we go in, we fix the water main, we fix the hydrants, we fix the services, and then we use the streets LOT funding to help pave the roads. And it's a very efficient, cost-effective process. That funding's not easy. So we're gonna have to get really creative and work hard with the DEQ to understand how we could come up with the project in very short time, because the bond election, if it passes, would be in mid-May, and we'd have to commit to applying for a loan in the weeks following that. But that funding program's not going away, and every year there will be an opportunity for us to apply. So if we get the debt authority in May, we could work through the summer, get through the master plan, and put an application in the fall, and we could potentially have a new loan agreement offer from the DEQ, and we would have, potentially about $3 million or $2 million to work with.
That's where we wanna go, it sounds like. I mean, I think council, again, we don't wanna push things off, use existing reserves, and then be in a terrible situation 10 years from now. We wanna get the bond approved and work as hard as we can, all of us on council, to make sure that educational story is laid out simple like you explained to us. And I think that's the first step. Get the bond approved, get the loans, made, like you said, 3 months after the bond is approved, and keep pressing on, getting the work done.
This is almost impossible for you to see, and that's interesting. It didn't switch on the screen. How about that? I wonder why. Oh, look.
That's because I was sharing, Nathan.
Oh.
So.
It's amazing how you get tunnel vision when you're up here. Go ahead, Lyle.
I'm thinking it almost may be more palatable to the community to request 10. Because really what you're trying to do, if I understand this right, is you're trying to secure the other 3 million that's at 1% and might be forgiven. So there's you look at the 10, you go, somebody say, well, that makes sense. That part makes sense to me. I'm not sure if going for, what I'm trying to think is going for 10, when we do all the education, might be more bond savvy approval versus the 7. And no, we still have to, at some point in time, address the other $3 million we're gonna need to spend. And it's a 1%, we're borrowing money to cover 1% loan that might be forgiven. Is that how that gets interpreted?
About half forgiven.
The draft ordinance, and this is the old stuff, but the copies that Forrest provided you has the bond ordinance language written in there in a manner that would allow you, if you had the opportunity, to take out a lead and copper line replacement loan based on whatever remaining debt authority you have after you complete these projects. The original ordinance that was written in 2024 provided you with that option as well. It's clearly written that it's for essential repairs, improvements, and upgrades to maintain compliance with regulatory authority or regulatory requirements. So these two projects are essential because by 2028, if they're not in place, we'll be in violation. Not to mention that we may not be able to provide the water that this community demands, and those were a couple of the things that I discussed with Forrest, was that, when we can't provide the demand, pressure goes down in the system. If pressure goes down too much, we have to issue a boil advisory for the entire community. Those things are, the likelihood of those things happening after 2028 and beyond just continue to increase. So one of the biggest concerns we have is if we postpone this project because we want to make sure we get the financing authority, that risk just goes up. And so there's a real negative downside to delaying the project, not to mention what you just learned between, well, I'll formalize that in the next agenda bill, but just the cost of rebidding is over $1 million.
Right.
So that kind of leads into the third point, is that should we decide to award the bid, that's committing us to that amount before securing a bond election. And should we not get the bond election, then that commits us to the 18% times 21% times 2 increase. And I guess.
That's the voter's choice.
But by committing
yeah.
to the bid,
Yeah.
that sends us down that path that's saying
Send us
we're.
on that path, but we've got potential DEQ violations. I mean, I don't think we have a choice. This isn't just a, Nathan pet project, you know.
But
to-
for sure, but the consideration, the question,
Yeah.
this is not my personal opinion, but the consideration that to wait for a bid, to get a bid after the election. And I guess, I don't, that's a crystal ball question. We don't know what it would look like in 3 months to get another bid.
But we don't want to lose the confidence of our contractors and of we're trying to balance those things too. Contractor confidence, we said rebid it, right? And we gave you direction, strong direction, get it rebid as quick as you can. We need to stay on track. So I think that's a fair story to tell our public, and our contractors are confident if we award things that we are going to do business to get things done in a timely manner. We have a good story to tell, and we need to remain vigilant on telling that story and be optimistic that we are gonna get voter approval for that $10 million bond.
And then when we're
That's
talking
correct.
about a 3-month difference potentially, which, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any indication that, the economy's gonna crash and everything's gonna be 50% cheaper, and if you rebid this, we're gonna,
In
see
addition,
better
it
prices.
would also kick the project down another year, which would
Yeah.
cause issues.
Yeah, I think all those things are concerning, and so we wanna be right behind you. You provided good direction and good options, and we wanna work with Aaron and other staff to make sure the bond election's successful.
I want to be clear too, and I do want you to speak, but Colby, you're committed to raising rates significantly if you have an unsuccessful bond election. Whether it has to be 21% or not, those are hard issues we will work with you on post-bond election. Sabrina and I have talked extensively about that, and I had that whole CIP up there. It's not really worth showing you, but there are nickels and dimes and things we can do and things we can postpone. We can take everything that we have and shift it 2 years. That doesn't mean you don't have to raise rates, but there are means and mechanisms that we can do. There are consequences of those actions. There are things that we won't do as planned, and their costs will go up. If you do something 2 years later, the costs will go up. So we're really trying to say, okay, how do we keep these rates as low as possible for the ratepayers? We know financing these significant expenses is the way to go. What we can't guarantee that's going to be the way it goes, but we have a message to provide those voters.
I'd like to see if Mike has anything to say, but I haven't heard anything from him lately.
Well, I'm tracking and on board. Thanks, Colby.
Right, thanks, Mike.
I want to take off on a word Bob said. If I were out in the community listening to this and said, that we want the contractor to have trust in us. When we rebid something and it comes back in a month later and it's $1 million more, I have my trust is with the bidders, the contractors. That, if I'm out there in the public looking at that and going, wow. So I'd like to see, maybe just Nathan's comment to that. To me, another sense is, I go, wow, if you're a local here, the expense, we're paying I know we share the cost of this to the future user. But in the short term, if this doesn't pass, the cost of growth is expensive to the person living here now, the resident. It kind of goes back to growth doesn't pay for itself. And I just, I think I want to hear it in our discussion that we've at least voiced that out a bit. But I think the situation is kind of frustrating, but it's necessary. So I speak of that maybe in the our normal ratepayer living in this community point of view.
And remember the reason we rejected those bids, 2 of the low bidders they weren't qualified or something like that, so.
No, they had technical issues with their bid submittal.
Right, so it's not like we're being manipulated, I don't feel that at all.
No.
By the marketplace.
What would be the scenario if, like we didn't do the bid now, we didn't accept the bid now, we got a $10 million bond, and then we rebid it, and we actually needed 15 million. So I mean, we could still use the bond and would have to fund we couldn't
Well,
just
you-
fund the
you-
5 million to extra that we need to, with our reserves.
Correct. Well, oh geez.
It's a moving target.
Yeah. You could raise rates to generate that additional funding.
Additional, yeah.
Yep.
So it'd be raising rates to cover the bond, plus raising rates an additional amount to cover the reserve that we would have to use to generate that money.
Correct. And it's important to talk about this growth issue, right? Your water system has been growing at a consistent rate for the last 15 to 20 years. Water systems grow, communities grow, your tax base grows, we prepare for that, and we build these facilities. So this facility was originally, these projects were originally contemplated to needed to be completed in 2026. But because the rate of water consumption was less than predicted, we were able to extend those until 2028. So the question about growth paying for this is a factor. It gets mitigated when you finance, because then that payment gets all of your new customers, as they pay capitalization fees, as they pay connection fees, and they pay monthly fees, they will be paying for it. It becomes very inequitable when you have to cash fund.
That's
So-
right.
Yeah, I want that said.
Yeah.
That's a really important observation.
So, does everyone feel good about have a grasp on the picture of this, and maybe we should hear from Erin on her part of the presentation?
Yeah, I'm just adding more for you to consider as you go into the bid, but it really just to give you kind of an update of what's coming next, but also all the things that to consider with the messaging. Erin Greaves, public engagement and community engagement. First, I wanted to, again, remind you, as I did last time, and also for the purpose of the public, to remind you that this is an election that needs 50% plus one to win. What that means, in the last one, we won at 79.88%, so almost 80%. It was 792 of your residents versus 198 no's. We'll keep the messaging very similar to the previous election. Unfortunately, taking into account your previous comments, Mayor, it will be another election that seems very much like our public doesn't have a real choice, because it is just clearly a better option, which is why I think council's doing this. It's a better option for the ratepayer. It's a better option for the city to bond. It spreads things out. It's just a better choice. I wanted to also comment on the $10 million piece versus $7 million, and say that it gives you choices, and it gives our public choices, right? The idea that it covers the additional costs, like Nathan said, adding, replacing lines, but also, of course, the lead and copper. And what I wanted to add to that conversation is the lead and copper, I think, is an important conversation, because it's not the first time your public's heard about it. We've done a pretty great outreach campaign over the last almost 2 years now, I guess, where we reached out initially to identify homes that had a lead and copper issue. We did follow-up visits. The water department, Sabrina's team, did an excellent job doing that. And then we had Morgan working on, a really complex GIS mapping system with the team to figure out where these, lead and copper pipes live, and galvanized pipe, and where they need to be replaced. And so it's not a new thing. And so I do think it's something, I wanted to bring that up to you, that it's not something new that we'll have to explain. And I think a lot of people will be appreciative that you're considering that, because it is such an important topic, and of course, legally required. The other thing I wanted to mention tonight, we've already sort of started planning stakeholder engagements with council's direction from the previous meeting. Also set up, some opportunities for presentations such as Rotary Club and things like that are coming up in say, April. We'll also think about how we can engage other parts of the community that might have major concerns about the water expansion project or how that's changed, and open up doors for conversation at multiple public meetings. our goal is to, I guess, as I said before, align the messaging, the cost, everything, so everything lines up with the previous election. Nothing's new, nothing's different. It reads the same. They understand the council's commitment and total commitment to the project as a whole. And keeping in mind that, you know, we'll be softer if we can with this ask, but recognizing, unfortunately, it is a difficult question to ask your public. Do you want to spend more or less money? The other thing I wanted to tell you were the facts of what's coming next and why tonight is so important. Tonight is important because we need you to decide on that $10 million number and decide if you wish us to bring back the resolution. Bessie Joe, we've had meetings outside. It's important that we submit in a timely manner to the county clerk. The 5th, which is a work session, gives us an opportunity for you to, if you choose to have a last minute change, but we prefer, of course, if you decide to approve the resolution, that you do so on the 5th. Ordinance, so tonight, whatever information you give us is not only hopefully informing that, but is also informing Molly and I in our way forward. We've been able to do very little because we've been in this sort of unsure zone of what things were going to cost and what it was going to cost the tax and ratepayer, or the ratepayer, and what it was going to look like. But it's getting clearer. So after tonight, I think we'll have a really good way forward, and we'll be able to create documents. My goal is to have those documents prepared and ready by the 5th so that our website is ready to go after the council makes their decision and approves the ordinance. And that way the public can then tap in and get those frequently asked questions, and as much as we know now, and then it'll continue to grow so that they feel comfortable and confident to see more about the water project and our way forward. And that's really all I wanted to add to tonight, so that you understood the importance of your decision tonight and how it's informing not only the ordinance and the way forward for Nathan, but also the way forward for your outreach. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, it's probably time to get to the bid conversation, unless you have any direction for me.
No, we just want to cheer you on and say, yeah, we need 10 million. We need to do all the things Nathan talked about for us, and we need to award the contract, the next topic.
Bob says we can go home now.
Hopefully we'll get that on record and council will agree to that.
Yeah, I'll leave you with Nathan. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron, for providing that summary. So to that point, and based on these draft ordinance, I think it's very important that you do make a decision on whether you want to go for 7 or 10. You can change your mind on the 5th, but if it gets adopted on the 5th, then it gives Bessie Joe proper time to publish it. Your only fallback would be then to rehear it on the 12th, and your deadline's like 24 hours after that, right? So we thought, if you feel comfortable with this information and you're ready to make a decision as a group to go for 10 million versus 7 million or 7 versus 10, providing that to us now greatly helps Bessie Joe do her job.
So that is the possible direction that we need to provide to staff. Is what's the consensus here? I feel like I know what Bob is thinking.
Yeah, I think
And
we need to.
and let me say one more thing, just because I don't want you guys to feel like you're being pigeonholed here. It's up to. So we don't have to take it. It's giving you up to that authority. And so as we move through the project, you don't have to take any more. If we only need 5, we'll only take 5. You will guide us on those decisions. It's giving you up to an amount.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, so I think we should go up to 10 million. I mean, I think the lead and copper stuff is important. It's a public health issue. While there is still funding from the federal government on that, I think we should take advantage of that. And like Nathan said, I mean, we don't need to use it all if we find a reason not to.
I'm 100% with Julie.
Mike?
I'm on the same page.
All right, it sounds like everyone is in consensus with the, going with the up to $10 million option.
We're not into drama. We don't want Bessie Joe having 24 hours. Let's get,
be like 8, but
yeah. Let's get this done.
Okay, thank you. Forrest, I believe that covered the primary objectives of this. I think we've prepped you on the impact on rates. Aaron, you
Yeah.
feel good?
And sorry if I confuse people by saying lead and copper, it's lead.
So
What's
the
official
reason it's
program
lead and
name?
copper is it's lead and lead jointed copper.
Right, okay.
Copper lines that were built during a certain period of time, and we own some of them actually at the city, have lead joints. So it's really confusing. And then galvanized lines absorb lead and slowly release it over time. So galvanized lines are our principal objective.
Your team has a spectacular webpage available to the public.
There you go.
who's interested in learning more.
Sure, thank you.
Change the page.
Okay, with that, Mayor, I'll wait for your
Yeah, let's
request.
move into the next agenda bill, please.
Okay, so, thanks to the clerk's staff, we added some components to your bid packet. And I need to get a little more organized here. So this agenda bill is to provide a recommendation for contract award for the water treatment plant capacity expansion project. At council's request, we immediately rebid the project after bids were rejected on January 22nd. This time around, we opened the bids on February 18th. That was last Wednesday, I believe. This time we received 2 bids. The 2 bids were reviewed for their responsiveness. They were both determined to be responsive. And your low bid is summarized in a letter from AE2S. This was the component that was added today. Does everyone have a copy of that?
Yep.
Okay,
I looked at
so
that
on page 2, Schedule 1 shows you the summary of those bids. Patriot Construction LLC is our responsive low bidder. And in evaluating the bid alternatives and looking at the various values of those components, it's staff's recommendation as well as AE2S's recommendation that you award bid alternate 1, which is the storage facility, bid alternate 5, which are the facility carports, and bid alternate 7 and 8. 7 and 8 are deductions. So those were options for the contractor to use ductile iron pipe in lieu of steel pipe. And for Patriot Construction, those provide a significant reduction in cost. I'm happy to answer any questions about the bidding process or how that relates to our previous agenda bill.
So this ductile iron thing is a little confusing to us neophytes that aren't engineers. Is that a safe thing to use long-term? I mean, why
It
is?
certainly
why-
is.
Why do
Ross,
we require
Ross Hansen's
steel?
on the line here. Ross, I want you to listen in on this and help answer this question. Go ahead, Bob.
So I was just wondering, why did we spec it out as steel and then go, well, we can let you do the iron, ductile iron?
I can answer both of those questions, Nathan. So the number one reason, I guess why did we spec steel? It's primarily because that's what's in the plant today. So it was in an effort to keep like materials on the expansion as well as, just to try to match what was, what is currently on site. So that's why we kind of specified it one way. Right after we went into the initial bidding, we got a lot of feedback from a lot of contractors saying, man, if we could utilize ductile iron, it would help a lot. So we had a conversation and we modified it to add ductile iron as an alternate because we wanted to kind of see what the cost difference was, because there's a lot of nicety to not having a bunch of different types of materials, metals, dissimilar metals, those kinds of things connecting on the site. So if the cost wasn't advantageous, then we would just stick with steel because that was really the intent. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Does steel or cast iron last longer? Was there a great
Oh,
lifespan?
great question. Similar lifespans. They're both designed for 50+ years in the ground. There's not an advantage of one over the other. So it's just a kind of a dealer's choice. What do you really want to utilize? Ductile iron is, I would say, it's more popular than steel, especially with site piping. But both are very good at their job.
It's also a constructability technique. So depending on the contractor, if you have welders that are part of your own company and you're not paying subcontractor costs, steel can be very affordable. Ductile iron's bolted together, and so it's a different technique. And so in talking with some of the other contractors that didn't bid on this project, they all added cost if we chose those. So for them, steel was cheaper, but they were also $3 to $5 million higher than these low bidders. So Patriot Construction, which Ross has been in continuous conversation over the last month, was clearly it was a good fit for them. They were able to provide a reduction of over, $750,000 just on that alone. Okay, but great question. I asked the exact same question.
Patriot was one of the original bidders.
Patriot was the low bidder for your last bid. Yep.
And then they had to switch contractors for the different components to raise it up, the additional cost.
I can't speak for Patriot, but the information I've been provided was that their electrical bids jumped tremendously. Now, I also think that they probably had a couple of errors in their bid that they corrected. But at the end of the day, they're still almost $2 million lower than Swinnerton Energy.
And they're lower than anything we had the first time.
Their
Still.
bid increased.
Their bid increased, but it's still lower than the
Correct.
first round, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one? Mike, do you have anything?
None for me.
So Nathan, can you tell us the dollar amount that we need to put in our little motion?
I can. On page 2 of Ross's letter, the second to last paragraph, it provides the summary of $16,962,936, and that is for the base bid plus bid alternates 1, 5, 7, and 8.
So that's 16,962,000. What were the other three digits?
963.
963.
936.
Sorry. Thank you.
936?
That's why we write it out.
Long day.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
$30 of savings right there, isn't it?
yeah. I think the concern that I had is what I brought up before, and this is a concern that I know that other people would have as well, as to committing to this bid before an election. And I just want to make certain that everyone has contemplated that aspect.
Thanks, that's a good point.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's, do we take our chances now or the chance of having asked for a $15 million bond? Or not having enough, asking for, giving 10 and then getting bids that are higher.
And then still not having enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. If we can't do it with 10, do we have in our reserve funds or anything else to think where the other $1 million is coming from? then the water tank was over, do we have an allocation go to 10% over, right? So this could be as much as, I mean, cost overruns, change deals, we get 10%, they could be another $1.6 million.
So I would give you, I'll bite my cheek on this, but I was not coming to this meeting expecting a 10% contingency. That was added by staff. We have a $250,000 contingency in the base bid. 10%'s 1.6 million. So it's significant. We do not need council's authority to do that right now. So I appreciate Bessie Joe or Forrest for adding that. But if you're not comfortable with that and you want to see any change orders coming back in front of you, I'm happy to bring them.
I think we're just recognizing that it could be 10% over. And so for our bond, go at 16, we could ultimately need, if we were looking at something, the way things have been going lately, not from mismanagement by any means, but the cost of supply chains and all that stuff. I just make sure that we can, within our self-funding mechanisms, of course, we can raise the rate a little bit more to get that 1.6. Just that we acknowledge that there is a potential need for additional money.
There is I guess the argument for this, awarding this bid now is that it provides certainty. We know that it's in 3 months, if we had to go bid again, that we're not gonna risk having to spend another 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. Or whether, I think it ensures that the certainty on that, it ensures that we will stick to our timeline and be able to avoid DEQ penalties and, shortcomings in our water system that we're likely to face.
Yeah, well, and if the bond election's not successful, we still do have to, I guess we could not do the work, but, that's not a really good option. So, we kind of, or we have to do it regardless, kind of.
Yeah, the work needs to happen.
Yeah. So.
And that was the intention of the original bond election, is that we would have enough money to do this complete project that had to get done by a certain time to stay on track of being able to provide water for our community.
Without being in violation of.
Yeah, without going into that mode where we have to boil water because our pressure's too low. That's, to me, is unacceptable. We know better than that, and, we want to make sure we avoid that, like you said, Nathan. So, award the contract, press ahead for 10 million, educate our voters, and the bond will pass. Do you want me to make a motion, or do you guys want to debate some more?
Is there any other discussion, thoughts, comments? For me, this was probably the hardest thing for me.
I'd be ready to, I'm on board with that motion, Bob.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys?
You okay if I make that motion? Okay. Award the water treatment plant capacity expansion project to Patriot Construction LLC in the amount of $16,962,936 and authorize staff to manage.
You don't want that.
So we'll delete that? Okay. So we just stop there, put a period, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. Is there a second?
Second.
That motion has been made and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Manchezik,
Yes.
Mayor Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
Good job, everyone.
Motion carries. Thank you for all the continued hard work on this and the upcoming hard work that we will have as well. Since you're up there, you might as well stay for the next agenda bill, the Forest Street improvements.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate your help today and all week long, all month long. It's been a challenge. So now the real work.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ross.
Okay. Well, we finally have some good news to talk about.
We noticed. This is great.
Yeah, so I'm happy to present Agenda Bill 26-125. This is for your Forest Street Improvements Project from Mission to State Street. This is identified in your CIP. It's originally a maintenance improvement project that was expanded slightly because of the unique conditions of that roadway. So the base and the sub-base is in good shape. It has the deficiencies in the asphalt are just that it's very old. But Forest Street is also on your Pathways Master Plan. It's an alternative route so people don't have to use State Highway 55 when they're walking and biking. And so bike lanes on Forest Street are in our master planning documents, and Forest Street does have bike lanes for a very small stretch in front of St. Luke's. So this project will also construct widening shoulders, about 5 feet on both sides. It will replace a few cross culverts. And we had a bid alternate to upgrade the 6-inch water main to the 12-inch, which is needed to help convey water east and west across town. The existing 6-inch cast iron pipe is 3/4 of the way through its life. And so within the lifespan of this new road would need to be replaced. So we have a huge cost savings if we can get it done. We weren't sure where the price was going to come in on this. And fortunately, the bidding was very competitive, and particularly the bid alternate pricing for the water line was very, very favorable. And so Horrocks reviewed the bids that we received on February 3rd, and Granite Excavation this time was our respective low bidder, and you're seeing some familiar names in that list. So you recently have awarded a contract to K2 as well as Sunny Ridge, and Moreno and Nelson did your Davis Street project. So we have a lot of similar players here, and the bidding was very competitive with the difference between the bids, about $80,000. So with that, our recommendation is to award both the base bid and bid alternate 1 to Granite Excavation, and I stand for any questions.
Questions on this one?
I think that bike path addition, for the amount of people who do use that and don't use the state highway, my office used to be there years ago, and there is a lot of pedestrian traffic. Uses 4th Street, bicycles, and so I think this is a really good upgrade.
We saw that traffic when we had Mission Street closed because they would bike down there and then they weren't allowed to go into the construction zone, and they wouldn't listen very well because they wanted to get to Albertsons or wherever they were going.
Just got to get right across there. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Just a little bike.
Mike, you have anything to add?
I don't, thank you.
Okay. Well, if everyone is good with this, and ask for a motion.
I make a motion to award the Forest Street Mission to State Construction contract to Granite Excavation Incorporated for the base bid and bid alternate number 1 in the amount of $627,662.16. Allow staff to manage project change orders within 10% of the contract amount and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Second.
That motion has been made and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Munchazek,
Yes.
Mayor Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower,
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Okay, up next, I suppose it's Meredith again.
Welcome back.
For
For my next trip.
request to participate in the grant application.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Meredith Todd, City and Sustainability Planner. For this agenda bill, I come in my capacity as Sustainability Planner, which is exciting. So this is a request to participate in a grant application for the Climate Smart Communities Initiative with the McCall Outdoor Science School, part of University of Idaho, and the Keystone Concept Resiliency Practitioners. So Delta and I were approached in late 2025 by the Keystone Concept Director, Principal Planner Lance Davison, who has history running the Treasure Valley Tree Canopy Network down in Boise. It's been a really successful tree planting program for the last many years down in Boise, and he's quite talented at getting resilience on the ground in communities in Idaho. So he brought this grant opportunity to our attention back then, and referenced our climate action plan that had been adopted in October, and identified having won this award in partnership with Blaine County related to wildfire resilience work. So we as staff sat down with the Parks Department and brainstormed what could be some applications of the context of these funds for nature-based climate solutions in particular. And a lot of the immediate things that came to mind were doing some shoreline restoration work due to the extensive amount of spring runoff we've been seeing when we have rain on snow events as the temperatures are getting warmer these last few years in the springs. We're seeing some pretty significant degradation, especially to the lakefront park areas, with a lot of sheet flow and runoff along the surface into the lake and degradation of the actual play surfaces and bank stabilization that we've made an effort to try and remedy. So Kurt, who's online, brainstormed a lot with the parks crew about what could be some projects within the scope of this grant related to solutions to those runoff issues that we can beta test within specifically Legacy Park, to see how they can maintain the shoreline as we see increasing numbers of years with these runoff springs. And better adapt our waterfront properties as we go, as well as maybe update our design standards for shoreline zones via learning how this process works. So we would be a participant in this grant, and our contribution would really be matched in the form of staff hours, materials costs going above and beyond that which is provided by the grant. And then other general staff time contributed to research and code modifications. A lot of it would fall on Kurt's staff, but he has been a really enthusiastic partner, as well as Eddie Hyder and Kevin Booth within that department, to continue improving some of those park areas that are seeing high traffic. You've already had a long night, so we have site plans available if you'd like to look more, because all you've got is words in your packet. But we're happy to answer any questions. The Moss partnership would come in by way of both getting either the grad students' hands in the soil or younger students' hands in the soil. That part is still what we're working on, deciding how close do we want little kids to rocks versus older kids. Do we want grad students learning about riprap walls, or little kids learning how physics works and gravity takes water down to more water? So those parts are yet to be determined, especially once funding would be awarded. But at this point, we just want to chase some dollars to improve the condition of those parks in a way that is more natural in its principles.
Great opportunity. Thanks for bringing it to us.
Interesting. I have total trust in the names you mentioned and the scope of work that will actually be done when if we were to receive the grant. So I'm good to go.
Yeah,
It's a cool thing.
Mention of some water quality testing or something, so hopefully you can coordinate with the watershed advisory group to sort
Yeah.
of capitalize on what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, and we recently got Brianna Bambick, who's trying to do some environmental education with Treasure Valley kids through that watershed advisory group, in touch with Moss, in case we can really make kind of like a citizen science or children's science venue, or outdoor classroom down in that lakefront area. That could be a cool alternative for the community. So I don't know what devices would be engaged at this point.
I support this as well. It sounds like you may have some visual concepts. I think I'd be curious on how that may impact the beach area physically and the usage of the beach area.
Sure.
And while Meredith is pulling those up, this is Kurt Wolf, Parks and Recreation Director. Colby, that's a great question. It's really the area we're looking at is we've done similar work to this directly adjacent to the water intake building to shore up and protect the built infrastructure. We held off on taking that any further when we did that original work because we were trying to minimize just how intrusive it was on the beach, hoping that as you continued kind of southwest, the slope would help mitigate some of that and we could just manage it over time. But we've learned that the lake, I think the irrigation district has held it a little higher than they historically did over the last 2 years. I think some of that's driven by just our drought years, et cetera. But we've seen significant erosion over there. We're actually losing beach, and so we would be gaining some real estate over there. The area directly above it is pretty narrow between the rocks and the existing pathway. I wouldn't say it's not used now, but it's not beach. We would look to plant that space up, but we wouldn't be altering anything further as far as the beach goes. So if you scroll down, and maybe those PDFs I emailed you are the best example, Meredith. So this was before 2014, the first phase of this project. You can see it needed significant, and right here's a good image. That work, and I think you'll see where we ended it. We stopped right where you start to see that erosion. Yeah, so that's kind of what we ended up doing there, but we held it shy right there. And what we're looking at doing now, where that log is, has significantly eroded further, whether that's from wake action or wave action or just a slightly higher pool. And we're starting to get old mill debris exposing itself that's been hidden under there for years. And we've temporarily place some rocks to mitigate some of those concerns, but we would just be taking it, if you look at that picture, basically to the end of where that log was and then doing, so right here's a good example. So that right in front of that rock is actually a bunch of old steel of some sort. And so we would just be taking it a little bit further and turning it in to itself. And then likely planting above it just to mitigate some of the surface runoff that we're getting off of the turf area and into the park. Does that answer your question, Colby?
Yeah, thanks for the visual on that. I'm pretty familiar with those areas as
my
daughter likes to roam around in there. So
and we as it transitions to beach, we will likely do what we did at Brown Park, where we'll work with the contractor to try and select specific rock that can stair step in and still be utilized versus just riprap. I think riprap's a pretty harsh construction technique when you're in that transition period to riprap to public beach. So we'll do our best to soften it there. And then we've got one other location if we, depending on where project costs come in, just adjacent to the one corner of the volleyball court where we might do a little bit of riparian planting in there. It's also a very unused space that transitions to the riprap in front of the wall along the volleyball court. So if the budget allows, we've identified that location as well. And that would be more towards that educational component on, tools and techniques that you could use to mitigate these issues.
Kurt or Meredith, how are other areas of the lake being impacted by these kind of events like you're talking about, like rain on snow, where there's more natural vegetation, not so much beach area?
I mean, anecdotally, but my favorite place to hang out is Duck Bay, and both with the wave action coming from the water into Duck Bay, as well as some of that flow off of the edges during that spring season. You can see exposed roots that were not there 5 years ago when I was marching through the park with Moss. So it's happening. We haven't done like an inventory of shoreline loss, but I think a lot of folks have anecdotes of similar, and then especially, probably the last 2 melt seasons, but this year in particular, Public Works has had a heck of a time with the water in all kinds of places during the melt seasons. So I hate that this is becoming our new normal, but I think we're in a good place to start catching it. And maybe we'll still have those good years where things happen in a more controlled manner, but this is a good experimental method to see how do we catch this water as it's moving quickly on the surface.
Sounds like a great opportunity. Should we get a motion on this one? Since I need to sign something.
Sure.
One of my fantastic letters.
I move we authorize the mayor to sign letter of commitment to participate in the Climate Smart Communities application, Legacy Park Shoreline Resilience, and Green Stormwater Infrastructure Pilot.
Authorize the name.
Second?
Yeah, I guess it's not on there, but then authorize the mayor to sign all necessary paperwork.
Thanks.
It's been moved and seconded. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
It started with that.
Oh, it did?
It did
Thanks,
start-
Bessie
yeah,
Jo.
it started off.
It's past my bedtime.
Sorry, my computer's dead.
Councilmember Nelson,
Yes.
Councilmember Giles,
Yes.
Mayor Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Machesik,
Yes.
Councilmember Thrower.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Thanks, Meredith. And up next is a public advisory appointment, or a public art advisory appointment. It is getting late.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Delta James, Economic Development Planner, and I have the privilege of being your staff liaison to the McCall Public Art Advisory Committee. This is a request to appoint a new member to that committee after we had one whose term limit was up and he chose not to apply for renewal. So this is a request to appoint Carlene Gillenberg to the Public Art Advisory Committee. I thought she was going to be here tonight, but she may have decided to move on or couldn't get in the door, unfortunately. She is a business owner in our downtown core and also has a graphic arts background. And so she was interviewed by the rest of the Public Art Advisory Committee at their last meeting in January, and the committee unanimously recommended her appointment to the committee.
Sounds good. Thanks for bringing us good candidates.
Any other questions, comments? About a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Carlene Gillenberg to the Public Art Advisory Committee for a 3-year term expiring February 2029.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Welcome aboard, Carlene. Thanks, Delta.
I'll pass on the word, Mayor. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, up to the meeting schedule.
Mayor, Council, Bessie Jo Wagner, your city clerk. Just as it was brought up earlier, your March 5th meeting, you will have 3 items on. You'll have the local housing work session, the bond ordinance adoption, and a bus van purchase for Parks and Recreation.
Bessie Jo?
Yeah.
That meeting is a morning meeting.
That is correct. It's a morning meeting.
I do not know if I will be able to attend. Is that going to be an issue with the bond ordinance?
We need to have at least 4 to be able to suspend the rules. So as long as
I'll be
everybody
there.
else can be there.
I'll be there.
I'll miss my dentist appointment. It's been scheduled for months.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Colby.
That's okay.
Although, you know,
The housing workshop there's no action item.
okay, I mean.
But for the bond ordinance,
Yeah,
there
I
is.
mean, I can
Yeah.
try mine, I'll be out of town and I don't wanna commit to doing that and not be able to do it.
Yeah. Mike, will you be available?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the date.
March 5th,
9 to 11.
9 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Yes,
Okay, thank
I
you.
am available, but yeah, making a note, sorry, I'm on the road.
Yeah, it's for the bond ordinance adoption. We need 4 members to be present.
Yes, I'm there.
Thank you. There really isn't much else that has been added. Just remember that your March meetings, you only have 2 scheduled currently. The 19th is tentative. And then because of spring break, your second meeting will be April 2nd. On your possible council events, you have the April 6th AIC Spring District Meeting in Boise, the June 10 through 12 AIC Annual Conference, April 22nd to the 24th Resort City Mountain Town Tour in Montana. October 13 to 14 is the Mountain Towns Climate Summit in Sun Valley, and then the Mountain Town Planning Conference, which is in BC, Canada. The exact location and date is yet to be determined. So if any of you are looking to want to join those,
So Bessie Jo, you outlined a new process where we would raise our hand and then council would have to approve it and what your role would be.
yeah,
So I would like to attend the annual conference in Boise for AIC.
okay. Any other council members want to attend as well?
Not sure on the AIC. I definitely would like to get to the Mountain Towns 2030 though.
I can't do the June AIC. I'll have to, there are the other ones, a couple of the other ones I think I'd be interested in, but I just have to see how my schedule is.
Okay, and we have some time yet too for those.
Mayor Nielsen, which mountain town
The
event?
Mountain Town 2030 in Sun Valley, October. through
Okay.
The
14th.
Climate Summit,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Okay.
Climate Summit.
that's in October.
Yeah, and I will, I'll look into the one. I don't think I'm gonna be able to do the Montana.
I think that one's already full, probably anyway.
The Montana one?
Yeah.
Okay, that one's full.
Be on that one.
It's not full. If someone would like to go from our city, Wendy will provide a space.
Oh, I think that, that Michelle of Forest, are you going?
I'm not going. CED is sending a couple people though, yeah, Michelle and, yeah.
Just,
So we will have representation, just not council or.
Is the Sun Valley one specific to climate change and city reaction to that?
Oh, we
We
have,
have good,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Mountain Town, the 2030 is climate focused. The other one is more Mountain Town sort of planning issues. And I'm on that planning committee, so we're meeting next week, so we'll know more about location and date, topic areas, as we move along in that process.
And we have staff attending the Sun Valley one also, so we have good representation.
And then the Mountain Towns one, we have, I have you down, Colby? We just got an invoice from the city of Ketchum for that, and we have Colby, Bree, Delta, Meredith, and Michelle.
For Mountain Towns 2030?
No, for City Tour 2026.
Oh, no, I'm not gonna be able to do the city.
The one in Montana? Okay, is there any?
We were gonna try to all carpool on that one.
Okay, is there any other council member that would like to go, because there is an opening for that?
I would like to go. I think there should be a council presence.
Okay,
Great.
there you
Yeah,
go,
thanks,
great.
Appreciate that.
Sorry. Okay. All right. So we have Bob going to the AIC conference and to the Mountain Town Tour in Montana, and then Mayor Colby going to the Mountain Town 2030 Climate Summit.
That's the one I would be interested in going, but.
Okay.
I think we can
I think you have a
probably
little
more
bit, you
than-
have time,
more than
October,
Yeah.
you got some time.
Yeah, we have room for work.
Okay.
All right, that's it on our scheduling.
I think so.
You guys ready to call it a night?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Second. Yep. All right.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
That April 2nd meeting, I'll have to attend virtually.
That's fine.
I'll let you
Yeah,
know
that's fine.
closer to it.
I just asked ChatGPT